So there's the Red Wings, and then there's the Blackhawks, and there's the Rangers and the Celtics, the Bruins, and then there's the Avalanche, there's the Penguins, but none of those guys we named a record after, you see. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking camera in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper! You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live on Four Legs podcast, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience. And it's Randy here, as always. But unfortunately, once again, Matt couldn't come on this episode. I kind of teased that, you know, this is a really tough time of year for Matt because he has lots of band gigs and he works a full-time job and he just got a lot of stuff going on. But unfortunately, he had an emergency. He was ready, set for the show today. So sometimes, you know, it's good that the two occasions where this has happened, we've had a guest in place. But unfortunately today he had to deal with a little bit of an emergency, and we're hoping everything is okay with that. But what will happen, I believe, we will try to do the end of the show together, get his points in on this, because we want him to be involved with our little contest that we've been doing, which I'm going to get to right now before we get into introducing Eddie. So, we started up this contest, and a lot of you wrote in, and we thank you all for writing in and giving your suggestions, participating, and being really eager to participate. So, what we were doing, we asked everybody to write in and request a show for us to cover in about 2 weeks in June, which we're going to do. And at the end of the show, we will pick one of these shows at random. So if you're listening in and you want to know what show it is, or whatever it is, it will be at the end of the episode. So maybe if you're feeling a little frisky, go and fast forward a little bit and find the spot. But I am going to announce the nominees for this year's. I'm announcing it like an award. It's not a freaking award. For this contest. So, here we go. We have 16 in total. So, Lexington, 2016. Leeds, 2014. Vienna, 2014. Copenhagen, 2012. Toledo, 2004. New Orleans Jazz Fest, 2016. Denver, 2014. Boston, 2010. San Diego, 2000. Greensville, 2016. DC, 2008. St. Louis, 2000, Boston Night 2, 2004, Alpine Valley, the Ice Bowl, 2000, Las Vegas Night 1, that is the Vault Show, Aladdin Theater, 1993, which is the only 90s shows that we've gotten requested, and Tampa, 2008, which I hope doesn't get picked because it would kind of be a little bit of a Tampa back-to-back, so it would be a little redundant. I don't want to be rooting against anybody or anything, but yeah, Tampa after Tampa is not exactly what I want. There's some choices in there that I'm thinking will be really good. There are a lot of really good ones. You guys did a really good job thinking this through and coming up with some good shows, and ones that honestly I've never really heard of before. I didn't really know much about the Ice Bowl show at Alpine Valley, and if we don't get to that this time, if that doesn't get picked, that'll be something we're gonna have to look into this fall or this winter. So thank you all for writing in again, and I will have to go through. A lot of these were either Facebook comments or message board comments, so I'll have to go through and actually find the person. But if you do so choose to, you are welcome to come on the show if your show does get picked for the contest. So thanks again, and we will get to the winner at the end of this program. Now, for our entertainment for tonight, I introduce our guest, Eddie Quintana. Hello, Eddie. How's it going?
Hello everyone. It's going good, man. Thanks for having me on. I've listened for a while now, and I've kind of fallen off recently. There's a lot. I'm in school, so I had a lot of finals, but it's great to be on. I can't wait to talk about my first show ever.
Everybody has a first time, and the first time is always pretty memorable. And this is one time only so far for you, right?
Yeah, this is my first and only show so far, but I'm hoping that they'll announce the tour soon so that can change.
Oh, let's hold our breath a little bit. Let's wait for that, because I'm hoping for my first time seeing every show in a tour.
Right.
That's what's going to happen the next time they go around. I don't think I'll be able to help myself. But cool. This was your first show, and it's kind of in your backyard over in Tampa a little bit. So what was it like preparing for the show and finding out you're getting the tickets and whatnot?
So when the tickets were announced for the show, I didn't really necessarily know what we were going to do. So I didn't have any money, and my dad was just recently, moving up in his job, and he was trying to get as much money as possible. So my mom stepped in and actually bought the tickets for me and my dad, which was great. So that's how we got our tickets. We just went to the show the day of, and that's where we start.
And I can't remember that year. I remember that the Fenway shows went on sale somewhere like February. So the 2016 arena show ones went on sale probably a little bit after Christmas. Does that make sense?
I think I remember it came out within the first 2 weeks of January. I want to say is when they were announced and you could buy them. That sounds right.
Yeah, because I think that I had so much trouble getting those MSG shows that I went to that year that I remember I got locked down on those, and then right after the MSG shows were up, I think Fenway was up, and I was able to get both of them almost immediately, which seemed pretty impossible, and good seats too. Yeah, that's like 4 months of waiting, which I think is the perfect amount of time for a concert. You don't want it to be too long, but you also don't want it to be like 2 months, and because there's a lot of preparation and there's a lot of, you kind of want the waiting to drive you mad a little bit. So what the anticipation, your favorite band, what's this all? Describe all this.
It was really nice though, because my band actually really started working on our album the first couple months of 2016. So I actually really kind of forgot about the show. I knew we bought tickets. I knew I had them. So I wasn't really necessarily worried about it. Me and my dad would talk about it every so often, but I actually kind of forgot about it. I focused on school. It was my senior year, so I really wanted to, finish out strong. And so I kind of forgot about it, and then it just kind of showed up. It just went by so fast, those 4 months, that it just kind of showed up, and we were going to the show. So I mean, it wasn't too long of a wait, but it was a nice 4 months. I think you're right. 4 months is a good time period to wait for a show.
Yeah, you don't want it to get too much, because I remember, man, this past year with waiting for the Fenway shows, because they went on sale around the same time. They went on sale February, March-ish, and that whole summer watching and seeing all of the European tour stuff stream and the home shows in Seattle and both Wrigley shows and watching them on streaming on the pages, I was just it was the last ones. It takes so freaking long to get to that point that you're just like I have this urge, I have this itch, I need to scratch it, and the only way I can scratch it is if this fucking day comes, and then you don't get any sleep the day before, and you leave for the park to go to the park at 6 a.m. to think like, oh, you're going online for posters, but none of that happens at first. So that's a long day. But I digress a little bit. What now? How much of their live catalog had you been intaking at this time? Was there, did you understand, like, okay, like they might open with something like Release or something like Pendulum, or was everything a surprise to you?
So in high school, so I got introduced to Pearl Jam maybe about 8th grade, which was perfect because 7th or 8th grade, because it was like a year after Backspacer, and then they did Pearl Jam 20, so I just dove right in. I listened to probably their most easy to listen album as Backspacer, and then I had this whole movie that I could just watch. So by the time high school came around, I was just like totally focused on Pearl Jam. So I started collecting their live stuff, and so by this point, I was taking a lot of live stuff in. I remember in high school just making different set lists, like my own set list, using live from all across their years of touring, and just putting them in an order of how I would like to see a set list. So
sure.
Yeah, I was totally aware of them opening with Release or Long Road or Sometimes, and and I know that they usually close with like Rockin' in the Free World or Yellow Ledbetter or Indifference or something like that. So I totally understood what I was walking into, in my opinion, at least from what I could think.
So you understood all that, and you kind of got like, you call it like Pearl Jam set language or something like that, whatever you want to call it. But then I'm sure your expectations and they're a little bit different than what maybe you're wanting, what your desires are. So I think my first show that I went to, I was saying I need 3 songs. I need Rearview Mirror, I need Given to Fly, and I need Black. And Better Man was kind of on the fringe of that, and I was very, I knew almost all their catalog at the time, but I was asking for the big guns. So were you asking, did you want more of the big stuff, or did you want more of, were you picking at some rare stuff?
I definitely wanted some more of the rare side, the more weirder side. Like, if they popped in, like, Education, I would have lost my mind.
Wow.
Like that, like if they popped in something like Black, Red, Yellow in this set, I would have absolutely, like, the rare songs, I would have lost my mind over. So, like, we're going to talk about the set, obviously. So they played, I believe, if I remember correctly, one song from Riot Act, and that kind of disappointed me a little bit because Riot Act is my personal favorite album of theirs. So I definitely was leaning on the side of the rare stuff, the weirder stuff, the B-side stuff. That stuff would have been awesome to hear.
So you're kind of, it's interesting because you're kind of started off in the spot where a lot of people end up, because I feel like it's, at least for me it was, and I feel like for a lot of other people it would be a little bit of the opposite, where they're kind of like, I want the Even Flows, I want the Alives, I want the Better Mans, the Rearview Mirrors, the stuff that makes the band, but the nice thing is that you haven't seen any of that other stuff anyway, so it's all going to be new to you. It's all going to feel really fresh to you.
Exactly. So, I ate up the Alives, the Even Flows, the Jeremys, the Evolutions, but then, like, I also freaked out at, like, Hard to Imagine, and I also freaked out at Love Boat Captain, which is kind of rare, and I also freaked out at In the Moonlight. That was super rare, so, like, I was just in the perfect spot, I think.
this was you're on the money with this. This is a really good show for, I don't want to say it's the best kind of show that you want as your first show, but if you're as big as you were at the time into this is really the wheelhouse of where it should be for that kind of fan. I always think in my mind, like, what would you want for a first show? And we'll once we get to when we do my first show in a month, we'll talk about a lot about what I was expecting and a lot about what I was wanting and what the differences between what I wanted at the time and what I think now that somebody should be getting at their first show. But it seemed like this is gonna be a really good show for somebody who had really taken in all of their catalog and was fully prepared for it. So without further ado, I think we should get started with it. What do you think?
I agree.
Why go home?
Why go home?
Why go home? So what was everybody has, the what are you going to hear first? Everybody has that. So this was the third show on the tour, and I didn't look at the first two. They did 4 Florida shows in a row. I didn't look at the first 2 set list. I've seen them before, but most of this tour year, they kind of abandoned the opening up slow, and they they would start out with Go or Mind Your Manners or Corduroy or Why Go in this instance. So and at this point, it's probably too soon to say, well, they've been, this is the trend that they've been doing. So what was your pick? What was your pick for number 1?
So I wanted, of course, I think a lot of people, as one of their first shows, they really want Release. I think that it's one of those songs that, like, you need to hear live, and there's really no other good spot. It sets the mood as an opener, and it gets everybody focused. It's kind of a sing along with Eddie, and the band gets really into it. So I wanted Release, and so I was wanting a slow open, but my dad wanted a fast open. Like, he wanted, like, Last Exit to open the show or something. So he got lucky with the Why Go, and I have to see him again to see a slow open. But Why Go as an opener knocked my socks off. I was not expecting it. It sounds really good. It was so much fun, and it was just it's what I didn't know I wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And that's why you kind of always come back for more with this band, because they have so much in their arsenal, and they have a lot of tricks. They have a lot of stuff that's very predictable too, and you can kind of gauge where they're going with things. But then when they come out of the gate with something like Why Go, they're like, oh, okay, you're right. I wasn't expecting this, but shit, like, I'm taking this. I'm having all of this. So why don't we get to the first song here? Let's play Why Go, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the full experience of this being the first song you've ever seen.
Hey!
So you said it was. Sorry if I'm misquoting you. Actually, just say it again because I can't even remember. It was such a perfect line that I can't even remember how you put it.
Which part? There was
the part the exact thing you said. It was what you were expecting. It was
something that I didn't know I needed.
Didn't know you needed. Thank you. That's so. So just go off. Talk about how this really set the mood.
Yeah, sure. So, just to line it up, just one last thing about the opening is that on the way there, me and my dad listened to REM's Document. So
okay.
the band was running a little late, I think, and so the lights came down.
Playing that. Yeah, they did that whole tour. I remember that.
They ran about, I think, 20 minutes late or something like that. My dad was starting to get impatient, but the lights went down and REM's It Happened Today came in.
Yep.
And that was the song. And so everybody was singing the Eddie harmony at the end, and then they went into Why Go, and everybody just lost their mind. I was doing the just like I just lost it. It was so perfect. And I think that this Why Go is super, super good. The bass came in heavy. I love when they give like some room for the crowd to respond to the drums when it comes in.
Yep.
And the crowd was losing it. Everybody was jumping from where I could see. Everybody was jumping. The lights were going. It was great. The guitars came in. It was just perfect.
I agree. This is such a heavy Jeff song, and I really if anything, it sounded like you can hear every pluck of his strings. It sounded like you can feel the strings on the recording, if that makes any sense to you.
It does. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, if I'm putting together my perfect set, legendary set, and Why Go is in it, I like it 2 or 4 a little better, but, you know, as far as an opener for this show went, I think it really did its job. I think it worked, and I think it opened the floor for everything that was to come.
It really set the mood. It really did.
And what came after Why Go Here? Mind Your Manners came right after. This tour was pretty standard operating procedure where you would get Mind Your Manners in the number 2 spot, and that sort of has pretty much followed them around if they hadn't been doing a warm-up release Nothing Man kind of intro. So you get Why Go, Mind Your Manners first off, and Mind Your Manners, it's getting you into the mood. It's pulling you in again. What'd you think?
Yeah, Mind Your Manners. I remember when that song came out, I was at my grandfather's work helping out, and I had my headphones in, and they were blaring, and I think my aunt told me, "Hey, you got to turn that down. We got people out here." So that song is one of my personal favorites. I love it. I think this version's great. I have this one little nitpick with just Mind Your Manners in general when they play it live, and that's when I found it when they started playing it in 2013. Near the end of the song, when they're doing That's Swell, How Do You Like Your Living Hell and stuff like that, when Eddie does the final Living Hell and he goes for the high voice and his voice cracks, it kind of, for me, ruins the end of the song. It kind of takes me out of it. So with this version, he didn't do that at all. So I love this version of Mind Your Manners.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's not something, you know, that's real. It's even for somebody that's listened to that song about 100 times in 100 different live spots, like I haven't even thought about something as small as that. Like, and I know exactly what you're saying now that you said it. You know, sometimes that living here, and he doesn't actually say the word. You know, it kind of doesn't end on a sting.
No, it doesn't. It just kind of like. It gets off the rails just like right at the very end, and it's a little unfortunate. It takes me out. I have no other way to explain it. It just takes me out of the song. And then one last little blink and you miss it moment for this. My dad told me this actually when he was re-listening to The Boot a couple years ago. In the final bridge, I have it right here in my notes. You know, the part of the song where they go right around the corner, could be bigger than ourselves. That part, the last time they do it, Matt actually loses a stick. And if you look at the video, you can see the stick rolling forward and going in front of the stage. And Matt grabs a stick and gets right back into it. I thought that was super awesome. You don't even notice it.
But don't notice, and that's probably the most perfect time in the song, because the rest of it is very heavy, and it needs that drums, but that part is that's the one where it's kind of very focused on what Eddie's doing and Matt's backups at the time. So, like, I didn't catch it at all. That's a really good catch by your dad.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even notice it during the show, and I don't think he did either. But just listening to the boot, and there's the whole concert's on YouTube. You can find the video. You can see the stick. You
just don't want to watch it because there's so many fucking ads. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's so bad. But just go watch that part, and you can. I think the stick slips out of his hand and it goes forward, and you can see it hit the speaker in front, and it lands on the stage. So that was pretty cool.
Matt is a Lamborghini, as we'll mention a couple times in this show, and he just keeps going.
Yes, he does.
He just keeps going and going, and they're really, this first 6 is all, it's streamlined. It's back to back to back. There's no stopping, and it's not until Corduroy and a couple of songs where Eddie even says hello to the audience. So they go from Mind Your Manners into Animal, and this is pretty much look, I would love Animal, my first show here, and it's really, everything in this section is sort of bringing the energy to, I don't want to say like it's overdoing it at all. It's at this perfect level of where you want it to be, where it has room to build. So you're getting Animal, and then you got some after Animal, and then you kind of hit some heavy hitters in the middle there. It's sort of, knowing what we know now with the set, it's kind of foretelling, because there are a lot of heavy hitters late. But Animal right here, I feel like it's a perfect balance song when you play it pretty early in the set.
Yeah, I like Animal really early in the set. This version of Animal's killer. I think the solo by Mike is really awesome. I think it's, for this show at least, it's, I think, perfectly placed. And to move on to the next song, because I know that Got Some really isn't like both of your cup of teas.
He likes it. I'm not. I don't care for it now.
Yeah. So Backspacer is my first album. So to hear Got Some with my dad, who showed me Pearl Jam, like, that's a special moment for me. Would I want Got Some later or another time? Not really, not maybe, but I think even this first little bit, Got Some right here, I think it keeps the momentum going, but it doesn't overflow it, like you said. Like, it doesn't ruin it at all, and I think it goes great right after Animal. So
yeah, I've said all there is to say about Got Some, and there's no me changing my mind. But I think the last time that we had touched upon the song, it was in the same spot, number 4, and I said, if you're gonna play it anywhere, this is where I like it, because it's still introducing you into the set, and you're not there. There's no stops, there's no breaks yet, so when you get to a point where it's like late first set, or forget it, the encore, forget it with the song. I will lose my shit when it does come time to cover that show, whichever one it was that I was at, where they played it in the encore. I will lose my shit on it. But this is it sort of, it's a better blender when it's earlier in the set. It's got a fun vibe to it, but later on it just feels irritating.
I agree. It Got Some does not belong anywhere in the encores at all, and maybe you could get away with it if you're doing like a 20 song set, maybe 18, 17, maybe, but it belongs in the first part.
I would even argue that if you're doing a set in 2019, that Got Some really can't be a part of a 20 song set, or else it's weird, because it's not rare enough to be special, and it's not good enough to be interesting.
With the classics, it's not good
exactly.
enough to be smushed between Animal and Corduroy. That's really difficult. I think if you're gonna do a set, you get rid of Got Some. You do Gonna See My Friend. I think that's a.
I know you're hot on that song. I know you are.
I think it's just a more harder song. I don't know. That's just me though.
The version that we did, we covered that when we did the Hartford show a couple weeks ago. It's not the best. I understand fully why they don't want to play it live, because it's so, they're down tuned on it, and it's really it doesn't feel like. It doesn't feel tight. It doesn't feel like the tightest song in the world. So, but when they have played it, they had, back in the Backspacer tour, they were implementing it around this time. Hopefully it's something that they can kind of fight to get back again, pun intended, and since it's from Backspacer. And, maybe we get to see it at some point in the future. If there is a future, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Pessimistic side of things. How many times do you see people on the Facebook pages, on the message board, they're like, so we're not getting an album, right? Where's the album? I've scrolled through, and especially this past weekend, people are getting real they're starting to get kind of pissy about it. So
we'll see.
Yeah, just let them be. They're human beings just like you are.
I agree.
Just let them be. So here we get into Corduroy, and look, I will argue that, like you said, Got Some in between Animal and Corduroy is kind of, it does feel weird because Animal and Corduroy are such special songs, and you can even say that Mind Your Manners, it's at least earned its privilege to be in this spot in the set, but the way that Corduroy and Love Boat Captain, both back-to-back here, and how they present them, there was something that just bothered me a little bit, being the fifth and sixth songs. And I want to see if you agree with me. First of all, with Corduroy, they did the extended version. And yes. I call this the Wrigley version because this is that's the first time that I can remember it was Wrigley 2013, and I was in the crowd that night, and I thought it was tremendous. I loved it, and I loved how sort of the crowd had fooled itself into thinking that they were going into the bridge and sang that part, and then they kept going, and then they kind of laid out and did the Everything has changed. I'm sorry, Everything Has Changed part, kind of quieter a little bit, and then they give the whole clapping and the yeah. So a lot of people are critical about that. I want to know what you think about that. Do you like this version or what?
So I totally understand where everybody's coming from on this, and I've seen a lot of this, and I think I've heard you guys talk about this. So the extended version where they hang out on the bridge a little bit longer, it's a one and done kind of thing for me. It's different when you're there, and this is my first time, so they could play Bugs backwards or Ida Vinta backwards or whatever, and I would not care. But I think if I want to see them again, I don't know if I would want the extended bridge again. I just kind of I would want them to play it through,
It's kind of it's turned into this thing where it's sort of a once every other time kind of thing, but it also kind of feels like if you do get this version, it leads to more of an epic show. And the reason why I kind of say this is because in the middle of this bridge, before he goes into the Everything Has Changed part, and yes, I fucked that up. Everybody fucks that up. It's fine. We're allowed to fuck that part up. He kind of says, "Good evening, everybody. How are you?" And I don't want to say it's like a little too late for it, but it's kind of a little too late for it. It's sort of, and then he does that, and we'll get into Love Boat Captain in a second. and what he does in Love Boat Captain, which is kind of, if you're following the Live at the Garden DVD, you remember what he did. It feels like that should have been a little earlier to kind of bring you in and introduce you, and now you're in the spot where it's sort of early, it's turning from early to early mid, and you kind of want the introduction to already happen. You see where I'm coming from here, or
I see what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I'm just gonna also play the other side of that. I just don't know where you would introduce the crowd, because Why Go goes perfectly into Mind Your Manners, and then Mind Your Manners goes straight into Animal. Maybe after Animal, but Animal into Got Some still really kills it. And then I think for the show, I think if you're gonna but at the same time, like, I don't know where you would introduce the crowd earlier, but if you're gonna do the Corduroy extended edition, the extended bridge edition, it kind of almost makes sense to introduce the crowd in the extended part, because then what's the point of the extended part? If you just want to jam, that's fine. But like, if you're gonna do it, it makes sense to introduce the crowd there. You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying, and I completely agree that you can't stop in between any of those songs. It would be a disservice to the crowd. It would be a disservice to the band. And all these 6 are played, back to back to back to back to back. So, but I guess my thing is that, maybe you go Why Go into Animal into Corduroy, and it feels a little bit more like the introduction feels a little bit late to me. That's it. And
yeah.
And it's not like in the extended version there shouldn't be an introduction, because I think that's perfect. I think it's just in this part of the set, I think you should kind of be onward to other things. I think the introduction should have came a little earlier.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally agree with you. So it's not, you don't have any, you would just put Corduroy or earlier necessarily, right?
Yeah. It's just construction wise, and it doesn't hurt where it is now, but I think it's because both of these songs are kind of like introducing, kind of like introductory. That's where I get a little like, all right, it's a little bit of redundant. If they just did Corduroy and maybe they came out afterwards and said a little more and then did Love Boat Captain, I could see a little bit different. But, again, like the Let the Show Begin, the show's already began.
That's true, yeah.
I'm like, it's a little redundant doing that.
Yeah.
Real quick, just on the extended version of Corduroy. Honestly, I like it. I like it live a lot more than listening to it back on a bootleg, but the only thing I don't like about listening to it on the bootleg is just the pandering, the going back and forth with the crowd, the yeah, and then he does the whatever Michael Jackson thing he's trying to accomplish there. I don't care for that when I'm listening to it back on the bootleg, and honestly, I've heard that version a bunch of times live. I didn't really care to do that part with Eddie live either. So I don't know how you feel about that. It's just that little section.
Yeah, I totally agree where you're coming from. I think that if you're there, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna do it anyways. Like, you're just gonna, like, it just comes naturally. You're gonna participate, especially no matter where you are either. If you're in, especially if you're in front. And then also, my last point on Corduroy is I can confirm that this song is definitely the song where you realize you're at a Pearl Jam show.
Ah, thank you.
Yes, like for my first show, after Got Some, it was a longer break between Got Some and Corduroy, and I just kept thinking, I was like, pick up a guitar, Eddie, pick up a guitar, Eddie, pick it up. And when they finally went into Corduroy, I was like, I'm here. This is a Pearl Jam show. Let's get it going. I'm excited.
Good. I'm so glad that you said that, because I feel like we've glanced over that, and I feel like because we've talked about Corduroy so often that, we're just kind of, whenever it comes up, we're just, all right, let's just talk about the song. But I have mentioned that a bunch of times, that it is the song that you're supposed to say, here I am, we're at a Pearl Jam show, this is incredible, especially a first one. You can't not go to your first show and not hear Corduroy.
I know. Looking back, it's definitely one of the ones I wanted. Looking back on it, I don't know if I would like the show as much if Corduroy wasn't a part of it. I just don't. I don't know. It's just one of the ones that I think it's a perfect song to just be like, all right, here we go, we're starting. So I just want to say that, because as a first timer, that's how I felt. The song is like, here we go.
It should absolutely 100% be on everybody's first set. And again, I don't want to bring up every single time where it's like, oh, here's my first show, and me be like, well, my first show. But we will get to a lot of those same points when we do my first show in a month or whatever it is. And like that is a main focal point of conversation there, how Corduroy was the same realization of where I was. And even though Release was a realization too, but Corduroy was the wake up from the dream.
It was the confirmation, like, okay, this is really happening.
Exactly. So we mentioned Love Boat Captain, and we're going to play it for you right now, because I absolutely love what they do before this version. And there's another version on the European tour where they did this, and it was for about like, this is a little shorter. They did it for about like three minutes. I want to say it was something like Krakow, or I don't know, one of the other mid-European countries, something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a version where they were just jamming in the beginning, and it sounded so good. And you'll listen to this, and they do it for a short time here, but it still sounds really good. And then once they kind of go into that dum 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 dum, and you have this realization of what they're doing, you're gonna really enjoy it. So here is that beginning part of Love Boat Captain into a little bit, and you'll hear the Let the Show Begin part, as we had mentioned before.
Is this just another day? This God-forgotten place. First comes love and then comes pain. Let the show begin. Questions arise and answers fall. Insurmountable.
So that little jam there. So that's not something. They don't play Love Boat Captain that often anymore. So, even if you're like plugged in on most of their live discography, you might not realize what's going on. So what was in your head? What did you think they were going to transition into here?
So when Corduroy was done, I had no idea where they would go from here. So it picks up almost immediately with the chorus chords, and then they come in and do the jam. And I was totally off guard. I thought it was a new song, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's a new song!" Because I was trying to place it, and I was like, "I don't hear anything. I don't remember this song. I don't." And then like you said, when they finally go into the boom, 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 I lost my mind. I was like, oh, it's Love Boat Captain. This is so awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
It's, and I had the same, because I had heard it for the first time this past summer when streaming whatever European show that was, because I think they went back to Riot Act a lot this past summer.
Yeah, they did.
You are got involved in a couple of shows, Thumbing My Way and Love Boat Captain. I think made 3 of the shows, which is kind of crazy when you think about how little it's really gotten played since Riot Act. But yeah, I just remember the same thing, thinking like, okay, this is a jam, but where and what can it go into? And then once you get that part, it's almost euphoric and it kind of gives you that goosebump vibe that like they just did something incredible.
There were a lot of these for me, with a lot of goosebump vibes for me during the show, and this was definitely one of them for me. I really enjoyed this song, and Riot Act's my favorite album, so having Love Boat Captain is just really awesome.
Yeah, and again, they do the let the show begin part. That's the same line they did live at the Garden. I think if they did it normally, let the games begin, I think I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with the introduction thing. But it's just it felt redundant doing 2 introductions kind of when you're in the middle. So
I agree. And then this I don't know if they've done this somewhere else, but when I know that they've done this for other songs, but at the first chorus when he go it ends with all you need is love, and it goes into the F breakdown, and then Mike does a solo. He didn't actually say love, and I actually kind of like that, because then when he actually does say it in the second chorus near the end of the song, I feel like it's more impactful like that. So,
yeah. The best that I can think of at the moment is kind of like earlier versions of Jeremy, where
that's what I was thinking of.
They don't do the first chorus, and then it's or sometimes they would actually play the chorus. Eddie would just kind of go like just saying or something, whatever, just following the pace, and sometimes they just went right into Clearly I Remember Picking on the Boy.
Right.
That's as close as I can think of without, but that's more egregious because you're taking out a whole part of the song. So,
right.
As far as that, I couldn't tell you, but yeah, that is a nice little change of pace. And with you caught 2 things already that I haven't caught in this that are like, you got to be really quick to pick up on these things. So that's a good job by you.
Trust me, I was not picking up these things when I was at the show, but
no, you're probably just freaking out.
Yeah, I was just absolutely losing my mind. But I've listened to this boot a lot, so and my dad has too. So we just pick up on all this stuff.
So after Love Boat Captain here, Eddie says we have lots of family and friends here tonight. Who knew that we knew a lot of folks in Tampa? And he's really just making small talk. Acknowledges a young child by saying he won't cuss tonight and he'll limit his middle fingers. And he also he does stick up his middle finger and then puts his hand in front of it as to not show the child with headphones in the crowd. That's a hell of a first show to go to right there.
Absolutely. And I love the joke that Eddie makes on that. He says, I won't do this that much. I'll keep doing this, and he gives him a thumbs up, and he goes, but sometimes in life, as you grow up, you'll find out that the other way is useful at times.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of like his using the usage of the word fuck speech that he had this past Fenway year. That kind of has that same vibe to it.
Yeah, that's Dad Ed coming out.
It really is, yep. And he goes into the next one by saying this is for one of their friends in Cocoa Beach.
Yes.
It is Low Light, and Low Light feels really, really good in this spot. It has that mid... I don't know what it is, but I always feel like when you hear it mid-set, as opposed to that, early, ease-in set, it feels a lot different. It feels almost comforting instead of like hesitant. It feels hesitant in the beginning because you're still warming up. You're still trying to figure out the crowd. Is the crowd going to be into this early? And then there's also the emotional factor that you're pouring a little bit more emotion into it when it's second or third song in. And here I feel like they can be a little bit lighter with it, that they can just kind of, or a little bit looser, and that's what it felt. It felt good and loose.
Yeah, my entire life I've been making my own Pearl Jam set list, and so it's just like second nature to put Low Light in the 2 or 3 spot as an
of course
as but this spot feels really good. It's a cool down song after the openers that we had for this set. So I really enjoyed the placement of this song for this song.
But also when you think about it a little bit, it's kind of taking the place of Elderly Woman, and not just spot wise, but it's now got a responsibility, this song, since it turned, and we've talked about this so much about how they went for years not playing it, and then they eased into it a little bit, and then it became out of nowhere, probably around 2010 or so, it was a staple, and you can almost assume it was going to be part of every show. This is a sing-along. This is utilized in the sing-along spot, and that's such, I don't know, it makes me feel so much better about the song, because again, it feels the way that I used to listen to the song. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. It's a nice song on the album, and hearing it live is cool. But now it feels they've turned this from that kind of all right, this is an okay song, into this is a special song, and I can't think of any other song that they've done that with.
No, I can't either, and I'm happy for that.
Sure. Yeah. No. So am I. It's turned from kind of I don't know. I guess you'd call it rare, or just a glue song, into a sing along. I can't think of any other band that can do that with a song that's number 10 or number 11. I think it's number 10 on the album. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a single, that was just kind of there, that was written by their bassist. So I mean, props to them for being able to do that, and obviously one of the big reasons why we can really appreciate and love this band is because they can take a song like that, and I'll have to mention the fans too, because this song probably doesn't get the play that it does without the fans' appreciation for it. So
absolutely. And then just my final piece on it is every time when I was there listening to it over and over again, when Eddie holds out that final note, it's great.
And then everybody just kind of right in the middle, they kind of wait for it, and then they all start this standing ovation, round of applause. It's really, it's a moment. It's definitely a good moment.
For sure.
The show. Red Mosquito comes afterwards. Not the only no code in the show, but close to. The band is really tight here. I don't really have much to say on Red Mosquito, besides I can't really help but thinking that Ed is just a slight breath off of the pacing on how he usually sings on the album version of the song and the live version. And it's not like he's late per se. It's almost purposeful. So, for example, the Red Man's your neighbor, and then he kind of, I'll sort of sing it. Red Man's your neighbor, call it behavior. And it's just a slight pause, and you want to be singing along with him, and it's a little jarring.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Red Mosquito is a favorite of mine. It's one of my dad's absolute favorites, and so I think it was a joy for him to see that song. And then when the song started, I totally thought it was half full. That's my riot act bias showing, but I totally thought it was half full, and I don't know why. I really don't, but
it has that like that beginning, that dum 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 dum
yeah
dum dum. It has, I guess, that bluesy 1 2 3 go kind of feel to it.
Right. It was and like you've said, it was really cool to get No Code. It's not the only No Code, but it's really cool to get No Code. And I just love the sound. I think Mike's guitar always sounds most of the times always sounds on point on this song, and it just sounds really good, and the band's really tight here.
So after Red Mosquito here, we go into Hard to Imagine, and they start playing it, and as far as I know, I've never seen Hard to Imagine in this part of the set, and I never especially played this way in the beginning, and I never seen them play it and kind of play it continuously with Ed talking over it. So Stone starts playing, and it kind of sounds cut off. It sounds like Matt sort of stops, and then they kind of go back into it and they extend it because Ed is saying over the song that it's dedicated to a man named Bill who survived brain cancer.
This is a request for a guy named Bill. Bill had to get through a rough bout of something I know a bit about. He was able to survive a hard thing called brain cancer. He's on the good side of it now. Bill. And now he's got a little daughter, Olivia. And we'd like to send this one out to that lovely couple. And Mama too.
We actually just got a message from his wife saying that that they were that this song was dedicated to them, and I'm reaching back to them to see if we can hear from them and to see if we can get a story from them, because I would love to hear his story about this, and if we can fit it in somewhere, then I think we can make for some really good make a really good story. And it's obviously surviving brain cancer is incredible, so if we can share a story of inspiration and hope, then that's more important than talking about a bunch of songs and in a list of songs in a show in Florida. So
right.
So anyway, it kind of here's and I feel bad now because look, I think it's well done. I think it's performed really well. But I don't want to speak negatively of it after saying all that, and I don't want to say that this is negative, but it's a rare case of a song that's a rare song becoming normalized when you put it in a common part of a set. And usually you'll see a song like this, and it's a rare song, and it makes the set, it sort of makes the set pop out a little bit because it's not something that you'll hear in this spot. But I think this does the opposite. And maybe it's because we've touched up on Hard to Imagine the last 2 weeks. It was an opener last week. Before that, it was part of a very rare section of an encore. And now it's kind of in the middle here before even flow, and it feels really normalized. I don't know if you're on board with what I'm saying here, but
yeah, I think I totally agree that Hard to Imagine is it's becoming less of a lost dog and more of like just a normal dog. It's becoming more just like more people are knowing about this song, more people are wanting to see this song. I totally agree with that.
I think the thing to remember here is that it's where the song feels special. It feels special as an opener, and it feels special in an encore where special things are going on. This is kind of just placed in between a set, and although it's dedicated, and that's the best thing about the song, that they went out and saw that this was a dedication, that Bill had requested this. It just feels like you put a rare song in this spot, and maybe we can turn a negative into a positive here. It feels like it belongs here. It feels like it blends.
Yeah, so, I agree. I think that it's finding its spot in the set for not being in a lot of sets over the last 25 years or however long they've had this song in their catalog. But I like it here. I think it's a slow one that builds. It starts off slow. I think the thing with Hard to Imagine is you have to get the atmosphere right, and so
yeah.
When you give a shout out to someone like Bill who had an amazing story, and then they start going into the song, and then it ends with this big just big ending. I think it goes well. I think it works, and the big ending certainly moves us into even flow pretty well.
Yeah, no, I thought that almost being in the spot that it didn't necessarily have the build as much, especially because that intro just kind of kept going on and on and on. I thought that it stayed pretty even keel the whole entire time, and maybe that's the difference between hearing it as an opener and hearing it here, is that when it's an opener and you do get that build, it really feels like it's escalating. And here you've already built, this is what, 9 or 10, number 10 songs, something.
Right.
I've lost count, but I think it's number 9. But you've already kind of built the foundation of the set. So it's not, the build feels a little less euphoric. It feels a little less powerful.
I agree.
So, not to say that the meaning is less powerful, because it absolutely isn't. Because, man, they went out and they played a song that they almost never play for a fan that absolutely deserved it. So, all criticism aside, that was a phenomenal choice for them to do anywhere in the set in this one. And just even mentioning Bill by name, I mean, you can't dedicate an opener to somebody, so or it would just maybe seem a little weird to do that. So I totally understand. Ed says here he's drove some fancy cars in his life, and that's going to lead to a story a little later. And I think he's really kind of, at this point, sort of putting a little nod to Matt Cameron, saying that this is kind of going to be driven by Cameron here. And of course, it's even flow. Ed's having fun with this, and it's kind of in the way he knows he's played it a ton of times, and he knows that the crowd has seen it a ton of times besides you.
Right.
So he's kind of that part where it gets to he kind of does almost an imitation of himself. He's like, he can't help when he's happy. He looks insane. Like, he kind of does that deep imitation of himself.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of sarcastic, embellished, and it's fun. It's not really, I wouldn't see it as him just trying to get through another version of Even Flow. It's just, I feel like there's a lot of there's a lot of good vibes going on the stage right now.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun to see live. It was super cool. This version I think is awesome. I didn't write it down, but I think you're right with the deep imitation of himself during that line. But I also think he changed it to where it said, "I can't help when I'm happy. I look insane." I think that's what he said for that, and that was super cool to hear. If I remember correctly.
It turns a little more meta.
Yeah.
That he's doing an imitation of himself while speaking in the first person.
Yeah. It was super cool to hear that. I'm listening to it.
Didn't know. I didn't notice.
Yeah, I'm listening to it right now. It's the version where he says, "I can't help when I'm happy. I look insane," and he goes, it goes really up when he says I'm insane, and that's so cool. It's so cool.
And you can I was watching the video at that point, and he had this face on like he went like bug-eyed wide. So
yeah.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And then I love my one thing with Even Flow that I love, and if you do it all the time, it's not special anymore. But when Mike's done soloing and everybody's jumping up and down, everybody's freaking out, and they've done their solo bit and they're trying to build back up into the last chorus, and everybody just kind of chills and gives Matt the chance to solo on his drums. I love that. I absolutely love when they allow Matt to solo into the final chorus. I think it's a very small solo, but
it's very subtle.
It's very subtle, and everybody's kind of breathing a little bit, but the smallest little bit of drum solo, I think it's super awesome.
Yeah, I agree, because you're right. In most shows, there's not a lot of shining moments for Matt like there is for Mike, or it's really the moments, the guys that get the moments are either Mike or Ed, or if there's a very heavy boom song like a Crazy Mary or a Love Rain or Me, you're gonna get a boom moment. But Stone doesn't really get his moments too much. Jeff really doesn't get a lot of Jeff-centric moments, unless it's something like him playing guitar on B-Girl or something like that. But
or Smile.
Sure, or Smile. But even that, it's just kind of, that feels more of like full band kind of encapsulating. So, when you do get a special moment from Matt, it does feel like it's that much richer when it happens. And that takes us mid-set here into this is really interesting. Post Even Flow is really interesting in this set because it's so much different than anything we've covered, and even there's a lot of lightning bolt, or it can be perceived as heavy lightning bolt, but even during that initial lightning bolt tour in 2013, you weren't hearing this part of the set structured like this. So the way that we're going to get into this from Even Flow is we're going to get into a Live on Four Legs debut. We got two of them.
Wow.
This is the first of two.
Yep. I didn't know that. That's cool, man.
And with that, I think we have not completed Lightning Bolt because we have not done Sleeping by Myself.
Oh, darn. So close.
Yeah, I know. And obviously we are nowhere close to completing Lost Dogs, but here it is, a Live on Four Legs debut. Get excited for it. My Father's Son. It's a Jeff song. Hey, we got a bunch of Jeff songs in the show, so let's hear it.
I come from a genius and I am my father's son. Yeah, too bad he was a psychopath, but now I'm the next in line. Yeah, I remember his mother, yeah, surely she's a work of art. I never got top dollar, but she gave us all our stuff. Can I beg her to breathe? This gene pool dark and deep. Can I beg her on her knees? Can I volunteer empathy? After the moment I fail, I call on DNA. One such betrayal coming to them name. Now's about one conversation with nothing else left to be. Yeah. With this your young long lost son and his never had.
So again, a little Live on Four Legs debut. We have never talked about this before, so when it does come up with Matt and I, it'll feel fresh again, which is nice. They've only played it, I think, 15 or 16 times. I didn't write that down. I'm an idiot. I wrote down that this was the last time that they had played it. 13. It had been played 13 times, so I kind of shortchanged it a little bit, or overchanged. Whatever I did. It's not like the most exciting song on Lightning Bolt, but it's probably upper tier of my favorite Lightning Bolt songs, more than Let the Records Play or or Yellow Moon and stuff like. I like Yellow Moon, so I wouldn't even throw that. Swallowed Whole, I would say, is part of that. But I saw the live debut of this in Buffalo, and they could not figure it out. They introed it, and I think Jeff was off with the tuning, and it was kind of a throwaway. They couldn't figure it out, and it's funny because this is the last time that they've played it to this date. So the tuning on this, it just feels, we're going to get into Getaway in a second too. It just feels like these down-tuned, songs from the last album. It's I don't know, it's got a weird vibe to it. It's transitioning nice after Even Flow, but I'm not, I don't know, the sound vibe of it is just a little dark for me, even though the song is dark.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I wrote that down in my notes. I said a weird placement for this song. I think it's definitely a weaker song off Lightning Bolt. But it's not bad or anything. It's just I don't know. I really don't know if the band knows what to do with this song, or where to put it. Almost.
It reminds me of Marker in the Sand. It's kind of like it fits pretty well on the album, but when you play it live, you almost have to, it has to stand alone. Like you have to sort of, and in this part here, after Even Flow, you're kind of starting a new section, but it works because it can kind of stand alone by itself, where you say, all right, well, My Father's Son doesn't really fit in a section with Daughter and everything that comes after Daughter. So it can kind of stand alone by itself. It's a rare occasion where it can, but you're right. It is incredibly difficult to place it.
Yeah, and I wrote down I feel like the episodes I've listened to you guys, I've heard, I hear this all the time. So I'm gonna say take it or leave it for me. I feel like you guys say that a lot, so I'm gonna throw that in there. Make sure that we get that in this episode. It's a take it or leave it for me. It was cool to hear it. It's cool that I get to knock that out of my list and I can fill it with other songs that I wanted to hear. I also wrote down that maybe instead of My Father's Son coming out of Even Flow, you could play like a cooler song, moving into the Daughter in the later part of the first set. So maybe like an In My Tree or a Faithful would have worked here pretty well, I think.
Those are pretty typical to go after Even Flow. I think you're on track there. Pacing wise, I think My Father's Son was nice to not go into something a little light. Like I would think that the move on most nights would be to go to Given a Fly.
Right, yeah.
And that would it would change things, but it didn't feel like My Father's Son took the set in another direction. It felt like it was good glue for it.
Right, yeah, I agree. I think it would have been weird to not have a song between Even Flow going into Daughter. So it was nice to get My Father's Son to transition us into Daughter.
Right. And that's where we'll be right now. It's a pretty common spot for Daughter, I would say.
Yeah.
Out of all the Daughters that we've done, about 1 billion. But it's nothing too special. It's typical spot. It's typical sound. It moves the set along nicely. Tag is another brick in the wall. And really the best part about the tag is at the end, where Ed isn't really pandering to the hey part anymore, but the crowd just decides upon itself that they're going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
And that's not something that usually happens at the end of the tag. And I think like the sort of Ed's face afterwards was like, wow, good job, you guys. Nice. All right, cool.
Yeah. It was really cool to be there with the that's awesome. It's nice to hear Daughter. Again, I don't know if I would want to hear it again on another show that I go to.
You're gonna, so just
Right. But the thing with Daughter is that even if I do get it, hopefully the tags will be different. That's what I think. I heard Daughter, cool. Now it's time to hear some of the tags that I want to hear. like It's Okay, or I know you love WMA by itself, but to hear WMA tagged on to Daughter, and then my personal favorite, It Would Be Cool to Be at a Night where Ed's really pissed off and he does War tagged along with Daughter. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's going all the way back to the Showbox.
That's
a great version.
That's a really great version. They absolutely just nail Daughter, and then Eddie just gets so pissed and he does War, and it's so nice. Yeah. If I do hear Daughter again, hopefully I hear It's Okay or WMA. I think that would be cool. That's what I got to say for Daughter.
In a sense, I kind of hate that Daughter has turned into a song that's about the tags, because the minute you hear it, it's a 3-minute song, and then you're into the tag. The tags last about double the amount of time that it takes to play the actual song. So I hate that it's become about the tags, and really they're outside of what we just mentioned, the three and the whatever snippets they decide to do with Blitzkrieg Bop or whatever else they decide to kind of sing, speak, or chant along with the crowd, there aren't a lot of other options. They don't go back and do War. They don't go back and do some of their early stuff like Androgynous Mind or stuff they were doing in the early 90s. That makes me a little less interested to hear Daughter, knowing that the tags they aren't going to be something that different from the last thing I saw. So, for you, you got a wide open palette right now.
Yeah, I do.
So
that
takes us into Getaway, and before the song, I don't know if I didn't look at the actual set list of this. I should have. I'm sure it's out there. Do you have the picture of the set? Or?
I do have the picture up here.
This was definitely on the set, right?
Yes, it was.
It was. All right.
Yeah.
Because he gets a towel thrown on stage, and it says Getaway, Getaway to Tampa Bay or Getaway to TB. I think it was to TB.
I don't remember that, but I didn't really pay attention. I listened to the bootleg, and then just so I don't remember that, but it sounds right. Yeah, and he has it draped over his neck the entire time. It was cool. It was just somebody just put duct tape on a towel or whatever it was. So that kind of gets us into this one. We heard the last time we talked about this, it was the live debut, and I like how we're hearing it now, sort of, this is the 15th time out of 16 times that they've played it, and it feels like it has grown since that first time that we heard it, that was played in Charlotte of 2013. I was really tough on it in that show because I really had high expectations for it, and this one, the way it's performed here, I think I had mentioned that Stone was trying to do way too much, was trying to do that whole intro, and this was Stone and Mike going back and forth, kind of tag teaming it, and it sounded a lot better to me. Yeah, I remember during the Lightning Bolt tour, I was like, "Wow, they haven't played Getaway yet." I remember listening to the live debut, and it sounded all right, but I think I like this version better, and I think it's for the reasons you mentioned about Stone in the intro. That sounds about right.
And again, it does suffer quality-wise from the drop tuning. I don't know what it is about that and the studio version that they can't play it exactly like the studio version sounds, but the drop tuning to me is just, I don't know, again, it's darker than the song's intention, and also Ed's not getting his voice elevated to that really high spot that he gets in the "It's Okay." He kind of holds off a little bit from that.
Yeah, Getaway's a personal favorite of mine, so it was really cool to hear it. But yeah, something about the song, they just haven't been able to get the atmosphere right. Like we talked about in Hard to Imagine, they just, something about Getaway, something about a couple of the other songs, they just can't seem to get it right. And I I would assume it's the drop tuning. I just don't know. I just don't know why. What else it could be? So.
The one thing I did really like about this was at the end. If you notice, there was just this like slight little extension instead of the final chord where you originally are supposed to hear the final chord. It's like maybe like a measure, and it's just kind of, it feels like it flows really nicely to finish, and you're not expecting it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think I know what you're saying.
So we're not playing the song, so I can't really explain it much more than that. But again, this is on YouTube. You guys can go out and listen to it and find it if this is a spot you really think that you need to listen to. It's slight. It's nice. It was a nice little thing for somebody not paying attention. Ed talks here. He says that, and this is going back to the fast car thing, motioning to Cameron, what he was saying before. He said he tells a little story, and he says he used to work as a hotel security guard. After midnight, when the valets went home, he had to park the cars. So it was a fancy hotel, San Diego. Statute of limitations have run out, so now he can tell the story. That's what he said. I'm reading verbatim because sometimes Eddie quotes can just go on and on. We need another podcast just for Eddie quotes.
That would be awesome.
Ugh. Matt's not doing that one. I'm just letting you know. He does A for the time and B for the subject matter. So
yeah.
He says sometimes fancy cars would come in and the night auditor was senile, so he didn't know what the fuck was going on. So there were these fast cars that were just sitting around in the lot, just sitting there, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He was bored. He was doing his rounds, and he sees these keys in this box. He sees a yellow Lamborghini, and then he's like, "What's the one with the horse? What did he call it?"
A Ferrari?
Yeah, he said Ferrari. I think he was trying to say Mustang, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah.
I'm not a car guy, but...
Neither am I, so...
I still have a CD player in my car, so that's how much of a not a car guy I am. And he says, sees this yellow Lamborghini, and it was too tempting for a 24-year-old. I had to grab the keys. I had to take it for a spin. I was never going to own one of these cars, even in some crazy wild dream where I was in a band that had some money. I wouldn't even buy one of these cars, which he doesn't seem like he probably has. He probably has a van.
Yeah.
He's got kids, He says palm trees are going by. He's going from gear to gear, only in second gear, and he says the palm trees are just feel like they're flying right past him, and he's just says all these fancy cars. The reason why he's telling the story is that all these fancy cars, nothing rode how this drummer rides right here, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, Matt Cameron, and dedicates the next song for the surfers that like to go surfing at midnight because he's one of them. And hey, won't you know it? It's a Matt Cameron lyric song. And what else is it? It's a Live on Four Legs debut. You got 2 Live on Four Legs debuts in the show.
That's crazy. What's the most that someone's gotten, or like just the most in general?
Ooh, the first show where all of it were Live on
Four Legs.
You're right.
You're right.
It's in the Moonlight, and we're gonna play it for you since it's a debut because we don't know when we're gonna hear it again. We say that all the time, so you have to. When you get it, you have to grab it and you have to say, please don't leave us. Don't go on me. So here it is, In the Moonlight. Enjoy.
In the moonlight, getting right, I take it back. It's a steady shore to relax. It's getting closer to our feelings. In the moonlight, getting on 2 lost wings, a beautiful
I mean, we were talking about this before, about you wanting some of the rare stuff. You said Education, Black, Red, Yellow was stuff that you mentioned. You're getting In the Moonlight, and it's the third time that they've ever played it out of the 4. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, that's something I didn't even notice until maybe a couple months ago. I was listening to one of your shows, and I was just messing around on Live Footsteps, and I was like, oh, let me go to my show that I went to, and I looked at the overall tour, and like this show is like the 5th show on like the rarity rankings, and I was like, why is that? And I was like, wow, In the Moonlight, wow, they only played it 4 times, wow, this is the 3rd time they played it. That was something that like I didn't take for granted at the time, but like it's so special to me now hearing In the Moonlight. It was just so awesome.
Yeah, and I think like going to PJ20, for anybody that went to both nights at PJ20, and you got like, I mean, basically you knocked off so much off your checklist. I think that was the first time they ever did In the Moonlight, and I'm not sure, it might have been the first time they ever did Education too. If not the first, then definitely second or third. Really, really. No, it definitely wasn't the first time they did Education, because that Vic Theater show, they definitely did that. So it was, but again, they almost never play it. So I sort of kind of forget how rare it is, because I say to myself, like, I've gotten it. I'm not chasing it like a lost dog that I'd be chasing. I guess I'm chasing B-Girl because I haven't heard it before, but B-Girl is one of the more common rare ones. That one we've played probably 5 times, and I've never seen that live. And then there's stuff like Hitchhiker, which they only done once. But I like the song a lot, and I say that, but I see why they don't play it live, because it's a little bit plotting. It just kind of something feels a little off kilter about it, that the pacing of the song shouldn't really exist in a live atmosphere. Do you know where I'm coming from with this?
Yeah, I totally understand. It's choppy in the sense that like it goes from a verse to like a bridge kind of, and then it goes to the chorus, but then it comes back to a verse and then the bridge, and then it rides out on the chorus, and it just doesn't like, and then there's a mic solo in there for a little bit. It's just kind of all over the place. In the Moonlight is actually the only binaural era song we get. We don't get any binaural, but this is a binaural B-side. So it was cool. It was cool to hear that. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from with that. It's all over the place when it comes to just like the sorting of the song and the flow of the song.
Yeah, and there was one thing that really just kind of that stuck out to me that I really disliked, and it was how Ed delivered the words "following you," and it was I don't know how, I can't remember how on the album he does it, but it seems more smooth. And in this, he's saying, "Night bird is following you," and it feels really crammed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. Yeah.
So
it sounds a lot better in the studio than it does in the live performances. But that's also, I think, because they don't play it all that often, and they're just doing this to it's rare. They probably never practice it.
I would say probably not, but it's probably one of those that just remembering the lyrics in itself is impressive. So and I think he did miss a couple lines in this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, even at the show, I kind of just stopped singing along because I didn't know like where I was or what he was saying, and I didn't know if he was just going to repeat another verse to fill in a couple lines or something. Yeah,
right.
I even at the show, I noticed that he was kind of off with the lyrics a little bit.
And again, if this is the 3rd time that they're going to play the song, and out of what I don't remember, 108 shows it took before in between the 2nd and 3rd play of this. So look, a couple of years.
Yeah.
I give them the pass. That's fine. If they miss a couple of words, that's fine. I'm going to package the next two together because they are songs that we hear very commonly on this show. One of them we hear pretty much every show. Jeremy comes up next, and it sounds very good. These two, I feel like, I know I mentioned before that Jeff doesn't get his moments, but I feel like Jeff drove these next two songs.
Yeah, I agree.
The next one being Do the Evolution. It felt like the bass was very poignant and very heavy in both songs. Obviously, Jeremy is a bass song, but I felt like the energy from Jeff just transferred into Do the Evolution perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremy was really nice to hear for my first show. It was one of those songs again that I didn't know I needed till I got it, and then ever since then, Jeremy's just rising up on my all-time favorite Pearl Jam song. So it's, with the benefit of hindsight, it's really nice to hear. Re-listening to the bootleg for the bootleg and listening to Jeremy again, it sounds like they almost played a little slower than what they normally do back before. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it almost feels like Eddie has time to breathe and get the next words ready, get the next line ready without just running through it. I feel like, and I feel like I heard it more slowed down in the second verse than at other points in the song. But that was a note I picked up on it, which was nice. I like Jeremy slowed down a little bit.
See, I don't know if I picked up on that. I was going off of what the passion and the energy at the end was, and that felt really full and really powerful, and it felt, I guess you can say fast, but I don't know. And sometimes, look, granted, I had today to research this, and I had listened to this a couple of weeks ago, but I had today to do the notes. And when you're middle of the set here and you have a lot more to go and you have ads everywhere on YouTube before you were nice enough to send me the bootleg, I'm gonna take the break during Jeremy of just like really focusing in and paying attention. So the good catch by you if that was something that that was done. But I think I was just like, all right, this sounds energetic. I'm listening for the energy. I'm listening for the passion, because sometimes they can just kind of punt on it, and I heard it, so I was into it. So Evolution, though, anything you got besides the bass line sounding really good here?
I thought it was a super tight version of Evolution. And then since this took place before the election of 2016, there was a lyric change at the end of the song. It's instead of at the end him saying this ignorant Indian's got nothing on me, he changed it to the ignorant immigrants got nothing on me. So that was kind of a little dig at Trump, I think. Which, I mean, listen, Eddie wrote pro-choice on MTV Unplugged, so we know what we're getting with this band. If you don't know yet, then you haven't been paying attention, especially during the Bush years. So I didn't notice it at the show, but re-listening to it, I think it's a really good version. I didn't, and I noticed the line re-listening to the song.
There was another political dig later in this show that we'll get to at some point. But yeah, this is not... I think anybody with half a brain that would be listening to the show knows where they stand politically and are probably okay with it, because everybody has opinions, everybody has a voice. I think it's the people that are sort of like not necessarily super fans that are just kind of taken aback by it. But look, if you've listened to this podcast before, you know where we stand. It's no surprise. I mean, I don't want to say the majority of Pearl Jam fans share how we feel, but look, it's not a shocker, and we don't we don't care what anybody else thinks. We just sometimes have a platform to share how we feel. So I really got nothing politically to say today, though. So
no, neither do I. So I just wanted to point out that lyric change, and then my final note. My final note was that in the video, it looks like Stone's really into this song. He looks like he's going crazy, and
there's your Stone moment. That's why they do it every night.
Yeah, it's the Stone solo in Evolution. So
yep.
But it looked like he was getting into it more than some of the other times I've seen them play the song.
Yeah, and poor Stone, because Stone sometimes he can go a whole show and not be mentioned by name. And I don't know why. I think maybe Eddie just takes him for granted sometimes. But obviously you're hearing the sound reverberating from Matt, you're hearing the sound reverberating from Mike, and they're going to be the ones that Ed sort of points out. But Stone needs his time in the sun too, not just with Mankind. This is a cool little moment here, though.
It was so cool.
And I was actually really recently watching Pink Pop 92, and I saw what was returned to them here. Ed points something out in the crowd, and it is a cow. It's like a little, I don't know if it's stuffed, I don't know if it's paper mache, but it's the same cow that was on Stone's amp back in those early years. So if you go back to the Pink Pop show, and there are a couple of shots that are right behind Stone, you can see that same cow.
And then I also did some research after the show trying to find the cow. And if you go to the Blood from 1995 that was featured in Pearl Jam 20, like one of the first shots is the lights fading up and Eddie's doing his headbanging thing because it's Blood in 95. Of course he is. And you see the cow right behind him. So just type in Blood 95. It's the first video. It's right there. It was so cool that cow was returned and brought back to them. That was super awesome.
And you see, I was sort of thinking at some point, I'm like, how can a fan have that? How can they just decide, okay, let's send it up to them, and like, why do they have that? How do they have that? And the other pessimistic thought in my mind is this just somebody that just made their own cow and wanted to give it to them? But this Ed seemed like you've come home, cow. We're gonna put you back where you belong.
The funniest thing was rewatching the video, and Ed holds the cow and he's looking at it and he goes, "It's back," and he cuddles with it. I was like, "What are you doing? It's a cow." But it was so funny to see Ed just like cuddle with this cow. Oh, it was so funny.
It's such a cool, like, just is a real moment, like you have relationships with people, then you have relationships with inanimate objects that you feel like you've treated like people. You go through things, and I don't know, you have things like around the house, and maybe sometimes I think a really good example of this would be like a t-shirt. Yeah. And if you've, everybody that's watched Seinfeld knows the Golden Boy. And you get like this t-shirt and for a while you wear it, and you wear it for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, well, I got other t-shirts now. So this is sort of in the back, and then you move and you pack it up in other boxes, and you don't, it's not with your other clothes. But then when you find it, you're like, it's Golden Boy. I have it back. And then, maybe you wear it once or twice. The closest thing I've had with that was when I wore my PJ20 shirt to Fenway this past year. I wanted to wear it because it was my 20th show, but I was very happy that I found it in the condition that I found it in, and now it is kind of in rotation as a gym shirt now. So because it got absolutely ruined at that show, being under the lamps at Fenway. So I
really like the transition that Eddie does with this. He puts the cow on Stone's amp and he goes, "This is what happens when you milk a cow for blood." And he turns around and they count in for blood. And he does that thing where he hangs off the mic and he's looking backwards. That was so cool.
Yeah, that's this is a really good version of Blood. We've heard some Bloods lately that have felt a little off. Just it's a tough song to perfect, and even this one wasn't perfect, but they were able to keep the energy up, and small mistakes didn't derail the song. It was really the last three of this set were really good, and like you said, the Blood 95 with the cow is back where it belongs.
Yeah, it worked out, and I just want to. I think that for me personally, one of my favorite main set enders is Blood. I don't know why. I just love it in that spot. I think it's a great main set ender. It's because it's different than the porches or the rearview mirrors, but yet it's still like a classic song. It's from Versus. Like, everybody knows Versus. Like,
right.
And it's really powerful. Like, it's just a really powerful song. So I love it in this spot.
It's a different vibe. It feels like maybe like, oh, they aren't going to actually end here. They're going to do something else. But when they do end, it's like, all right, you know what? That was pretty fitting. That worked.
Yeah.
Because now I'm kind of pumped. I'm kind of ready. And we get to the encore. Ed he's rambling, and really I didn't recite verbatim what he's saying here, because he's just like,
he's just talking.
He's mumbling, and he's saying something about heavy things, and we've been through a lot, and it's just all right. There's nothing really specific. So, and also I again, the fucking ads on YouTube made me not want to write all this stuff, because I had to go back and do all that shit. So they start off encore with Pendulum, which is for anybody that has ever seen the band in the last 6 years, they know that Pendulum was an opener for that whole Lightning Bolt tour. And around this time, they started to play around with it a little bit and put it in different spots, and it made its way to the encore. And we said the last time we got Pendulum in an encore that it was like getting the common rare card in a pack of Pokemon cards, that, you know, when you get a rare card, you're like, this has to be worth something, but it's the rare card that ain't worth jack shit. So, right. But now I'm kind of able to let that go, because, you know, there's enough time that's passed, and now we can kind of see the song for how different its placement is in the beginning of the set into this beginning of a new set. And it actually, to me, when they open with it, there's always like this hesitation, this like eerie feel, and this feels here that it's more complete, that it's full, that it's sort of a breath of fresh air compared to the typical first encore songs, because, you know, you usually get something kind of cooled down, but it still has an eerie vibe to it, so it's just dynamic more than the way that they would play it when they open with it. It's sort of the same way that we had mentioned how Lightning Bolt is, Low Light is played differently when played second than played seventh.
Right, I agree. I really enjoy the placement for Pendulum. It's kind of like, it's like flipping the page over. You know, you get the first 17 songs in the first set. Now it's time for the two encores, and it's like it's like another opener almost. I really enjoy this song. It's it's one of my favorites off Lightning Bolt. And then to go off your point of it feeling complete, of the Pendulums the live versions of Pendulum that I've seen and listened to, something with the end of the song, they almost feel like they don't know how to end it. And so, like, some people
it's kind of got that like
right, and like some people will go on for another bar, but Matt will stop, or Matt will keep going, and everybody's done. So he's just kind of gotta, you know, hurry up and do like a bum ba da dum bum bum or something, you know. But like with this, everybody's fading out. You know, they're holding on to a note. The guitar feedback's going, and Matt does the final drum roll, and it just stops, and it feels like it's done, like it's complete. It's a finished song, and I really enjoy this version of Pendulum.
I'm glad that you said that, because I knew that there was something a little bit different about it that sounded, and that's why we use the word complete and full. And I guess that's like the ninth point that you made, that I didn't realize something of a song when, I've heard it about a billion times, but yeah, they do trail off when they tend to play it opening up. But that's right on point. It definitely felt more finished. And to go back on what I was saying before, since I wrote it down here, I think it also feels wanted here more than it does. And I've seen this in an encore before, and I was very much leave it. I didn't want it in the encore at all. But when you have stuff like In the Moonlight and Love Boat Captain and Hard to Imagine in your first set, I think it's okay to kind of get that common one back in the encore. So that takes us into Off He Goes, which is exactly where I love this song, and we talked about it so much. They take such a good job of taking this kind of downtrodden, a little bit a little bit sad, a little bit sort of distant kind of song, and turning it into something fun and kind of loose and enjoyable. And I've always loved it in the encore spot here.
I agree. It was really nice to see that one. After the show, my dad was saying that, like, he was really glad he saw this one too. There was a couple that he saw, Red Mosquito, Evolution, this one, that he was really glad that he saw this one. So, Off He Goes is a classic song, and I like it. I like it in this spot. Just to tell like what was going on in the concert at this point, I was pretty high up, and so by this point in the show, everybody was kind of starting to sit down around us, and me and my dad were the only ones kind of standing by this point. And we're not short. We're not short at all. We're 6'1", 6'2", and it felt kind of awkward standing there. And so I think it was at either like right in the middle of this song or right at the start of the next song. We just kind of sat down until about, I think, maybe near the end of this encore. But yeah, that's what was going on with us at this point. People were starting to sit down. It was kind of awkward, so we just sat down with them.
I hate to be old man yells at cloud here, but and it should be the exact opposite. But look, the last concert that I saw was Mumford & Sons back in March, and we were standing, like, it was first three songs in, we were standing, and the guy behind us was sitting, and he taps me on the back. He says, "Hey, would you mind sitting down?" And I ripped into him. I'm like, "Nope, I'm at a fucking concert. I'm standing." And it just, our section, I don't know what it was that night, but our section nobody was interested in standing. Other sections, it was kind of scattered throughout, and I don't know if it's just the way that their crowd takes in their show or what, but I was a little disappointed that and I felt like we were kind of sticking out like a sore thumb standing after a while. So
that's exactly how I think we felt. That's how I know. I know that's how I felt when that was going on. It was just weird. But just to like put that in perspective, like, could you imagine if you're at this show, right? And you said it was 3 songs in at Mumford & Sons, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Could you imagine after Animal, someone taps you on the back and is like, "Hey, do you mind if you just like
I'd punch him
real quick?" Oh my God, I know, right? Are you kidding me? Like,
absolutely no fucking way. And even look, I think you're a little light on this. In the encore, I would not sit down. No, I'm very much, unless it's like really something that isn't really inviting the fans in, and I'm thinking something kind of like a thumbing my way, that like you have to cool down during, and it's not something that like consists of high singing or anything like that,
or like the end.
Yeah, right. That's another song, Future Days, something like that. I would never even consider it. And even during those songs, the best that I would do is I would sit on the top of the seat, like the edge of it, so I'm still sort of standing. So kind of ready for whatever's coming next. No, I don't want to insult your people down in Florida, but that's a Florida crowd.
I mean, I've only been to a couple shows in Florida, so I'm not. I take no offense. My dad felt exactly the same way. I'm pretty sure he said something to the effect of, "There's no fucking way we should be sitting down right now at a Pearl Jam show." Something like that. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, if you were in the Garden and somebody did that, like you're done. You're getting thrown out the gates. So. Yeah, even if it's slow.
Right.
Next one, and you know what? That Mumford & Sons show was in Albany, and it's not like, Albany is this, hotbed for music. So I guess it's just based on location. I would say like Philly and Chicago and New York, if you sit down during certain shows, that's your fault. That's not anybody else's. Comeback is next, and Ed tees it up by saying this is a song for a hockey player, and he says most songs are written about hockey players or Johnny Ramone or my dog Hank. And I had actually said this to you before we went on, because I said the first time I had heard this, I'm like, this has to be about Gordie Howe. And because it was 2016, I knew that he had passed in 2016. I didn't know the date. It was Gordie Howe passed in June of this year. It was literally, I think, like 24. And this is going back to when I was working at ESPN and having to deal with this all the time. I remember this day very clearly because it was the day of Muhammad Ali's funeral. So I don't remember how many days it took from Muhammad Ali's passing to get to his funeral, but like nobody was talking about Gordie Howe because it was Muhammad Ali's funeral and fucking Bill Clinton and Billy Crystal are doing speeches. So there's no time to talk about Gordie Howe, which is a damn shame in itself. But considering that my dog is named after Gordie Howe, I was very excited to talking about a dedication, but we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, we didn't find anything in particular, and nothing on the internet really helped us out either. So
no, stupid internet.
Yeah, gosh darn it.
When you think Google has all the answers, they ain't got shit.
No, they got shit, man.
So, but Comeback sounded really good, no matter who it was dedicated to. It's just sometimes the song can feel a little too sad, and it can feel like you want to break down in tears. And I'll go back to a version from Memphis in 2014. It was after Jack White's keyboard player had passed, and he had passed like hours before the show had started. So that was probably a game time decision to do that. And I was at the rail, so I was able to feel the emotion coming from the band and coming from Ed, who was nearly in tears. And like that really stuck out to me as just like, wow, I didn't see the song in that kind of fashion before that, but now that I've seen it that way, I like this version. It's emotional, but it's more powerful and uplifting emotion than just like sort of hopeless emotion.
Yeah, I agree. It for me, Comeback has a very special place in my heart. And you're right. The first part, like especially in the studio version, he's barely getting through the words, and then everything stops, and Mike's guitar comes in, and everybody's just screaming, "Come back!" And it changes. It changes from like helplessness to like hopeful near the end, and it's amazing. It's one of Pearl Jam's most emotional songs ever.
It absolutely is. And I think it's something that on the album you just don't, at least I didn't put that into perspective, that it was supposed to be that emotional. And then after seeing it live a couple of times, you just realize that wow, this is kind of heavy stuff. So, and then you follow that up with Inside Job, and you have the most powerful ending to. And I know that's tough competition with Release, but like Comeback and Inside Job ending an album, that's powerful shit.
That's a lot. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So after this one, Ed says you got the Red Wings, you got the Blackhawks, you got the Rangers, you got the Bruins. Fuck the Bruins, and fuck the Blues too. Fuck both those teams and fuck the Cup this year. Hell, somebody could have won the Cup by the time that this show had aired, but he mentions the Avalanche, and then he mentions the Penguins, who get the absolute worst reaction in the world, which they should. And I can't remember if the Lightning played the Penguins that year in the playoffs. It feels like they've played the Penguins a lot in the playoffs, in the conference finals, and I think maybe that year was one of them. But that was April, so they're getting right before playoff season. They said none of these teams were named after a record, you see. And he says, cue the special effects now. The Tesla coil goes off in the arena, and we get rocking the lightning bolt. So cool moment, and let's hear the lightning bolt go off, and let's hear them start the song here.
Cue the special effect now. She comes on like a storm, but you don't know where from. She was thrown like a burning meteor from my own side. For a place to land, she said, you got yourself some sand, and whatever you replied, she took it as yeah. She comes after me with her moonlit planet, seems to soon go down on her knees, and then you're dead. And then before you know, the weeds are obviously overgrown.
So I went to a Lightning game back in 2017, and I was incredibly disappointed that they didn't take the ice to, you gotta know you'll never let her go. She's letting go. Like that. Is that not the perfect for that team to enter the ice to? Like how are they not capitalizing on that?
No, I don't know, but that's perfect, and it's perfect. I love this moment of the show. It always brings a smile on my face. That and another point in the show always brings a smile on my face. But yeah, it was super awesome there. It fit perfectly. They should keep doing that and use it until the end of the world, because it just fits so well.
I agree, and I think at some points I've said that Lightning Bolt really didn't deserve to be in an encore, but here, where you're in, how do you pronounce it? Amalie
Arena.
Amalie Arena. Okay, so you're there where the Lightning fucking play. Make it a spotlight, and it works, and they're on fire during this song. I'm just disappointed because, again, this is my nephew's hockey team. I took him to go see a game 2 years ago in 2017, and they need to do right by my nephew. He needs to hear Lightning Bolt in the arena. So if anybody out there is part of the Tampa arena crew at Amalie, fucking get on it. Play this song.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of funny that both of our first shows, there are hockey references, because even though he says half of their songs are about hockey players, they don't really talk about hockey too much. But my first show, there was a mention of Brian Leach and Mark Messier and a Let's Go Rangers chant, and that was probably my favorite moment of that show. So
that was super awesome. Another little moment that I really enjoy is right after the special effect and everybody's cheering and they're doing the main riff, Eddie comes running up to them, like going up to the mic, and you hear that laugh that he does right before he starts singing.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I love hearing stuff like that. He's just so happy, you know.
You feel it throughout this show, like he taps into a lot of his joy with some anger too, and we'll get to that in a couple of songs. But I think it's all just like happy anger. It's happy emotion. It's happy. They're enjoying themselves, and it shows. They're, you know, if they don't play a song perfectly, they're not letting it kind of tear them apart. You know, there's even depressing content in this show, and he's not letting it tear him apart. So this is good. The energy in this arena this night is real good.
Mm-hmm. It was really good being there too.
Yeah, you can tell some shows when you get boots, it's a little tough to tell how the crowd is reacting and whether they're into it. But you can tell the crowd is into it in this show, but you can tell more that the band is into it than the crowd.
I agree.
So Lucan comes next, and we don't spend a lot of time on Lucan, so we won't. It's another Eddie throwing in the towel after getting the first few right. He's just kind of doing that, and you know what? But it's not a throw in the towel because he's saying fuck it. He's just, this is a throwing in the towel because everybody is just having fun. And while I roll my eyes at that part, I don't do it with absolute hatred towards what he's doing.
The note I wrote down was just I just wrote awesome, and then I also wrote down, I'm so used to making my own Pearl Jam set list that I have a version of Luckin' that goes straight into Not For You. And I was at the show, I was oh my god.
Yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, they're going to go into Not For You next. And they don't, but they also kind of stop, and it kind of goes straight into Porch, which is really cool. But yeah, that's the note I wrote down for the song.
Usually, yeah, Lucan is best, transitional. Obviously, you can't really do much else with it besides get you pumped for the next song, and it's not, obviously you want the next song to be just as energetic and fired up, but then when you have riffy Porch and the stupid little, a little bit softer now, a little bit softer now, a little bit softer now, I think I hate when they go soft on that more than I hate the riffy stuff.
Yeah. It's like for me the intro Porch, the riffy Porch, it's a one and done for me. And I know I know it's not a one and done for them. They'll keep doing it. They'll keep doing it that way.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
So obviously you see it at the show and it's kind of like whatever, but from listening to this podcast, have we sort of turned you off to that? Because we talk about this nonstop, and Matt and I off mic will be like, do you think that we're latching on to people, that people are like, yeah, fuck riffy Porch, or do they not care?
So the first time I heard riffy Porch was from Austin City Limits in 2010 or 2009. I think it's 2009. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought the way that they did it was super cool, and it was super awesome. Seeing it this way live didn't bother me. I was in the moment. It was my first show. They could have done, like I said, throughout this entire show, they could have almost done anything and I would have lost my shit. So, but yeah, after listening to you guys and it's just that they keep doing it every time they play Porch.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I like the idea that you guys came out where like Love Boat Captain, they kind of jam on it. And then maybe they stop, and then like Eddie goes 1, 2, 3, 4. What the fuck is this? Like that would be so cool.
Sure.
Like that's a great idea. Or even just start it like 1, 2, 3, 4, and go into it. But like they do it every time they play Porch. It's just so I'm just so over it at this point.
It's showing their hand. Like nobody's stupid. Nobody is sitting there and being like, what is this? What is this? It's coming, but I'm not sure what it is. Nobody is that fucking stupid at this point.
Right, everybody knows that this is Porch.
That's your first show and you fucking knew. So,
yeah.
Again, I don't want to get too long-winded on that, but there are versions of Porch that I feel like it's sort of I get the vibe of like, we're bored of this too, because I listen, you get Porch almost every show and you're like, all right, what's different? And sometimes it just kind of feels like it's very similar, and I didn't get that feel of like, okay, we're bored of playing it because we played it every night here. I feel maybe it's early in the tour and they're just like really tapped in and really dialed in, that they really pulled into something on this, and it worked. I enjoyed 3/4 of this version of Porch.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I always enjoy Porch live. I love it. Once we get past the opening part, I always think Mike kills the solo basically almost every time. And Stone's riff, just listening in on the Stone side, the bum, 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 right before the last chorus, and they build up on that. When they get that part right, I think it almost kind of saves the song for me and makes the song. I just love that riff so much, and it was fun to belt out that last chorus.
Yeah, look, I think that's another. I mean, it's sort of inevitable now that you're going to get Porch at every show, but I think it's another first time that it's got to be in your first time for shows.
Yeah, I agree.
Just it's a moment. It's an experience, and again, it just kind of encapsulates who the band is and what they're so good at doing. And that sort of takes us into the second encore. So I forget what Eddie says here, whatever he says, blah, 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 blah. I'm drinking wine, whatever he says. He ends up saying, but this is for the people in the back. And of course, I get this all, like whenever he says that, it's kind of like, you already know it's a 50-50 shot. Yeah. So I always plead to myself that if this happens at a show that I'm at, and I'm just like, please not Les Kiss, please not Les Kiss, please not Les Kiss. I'm not necessarily like really asking for Elderly Woman here, because I don't really want it in the second encore, but I want it way more than Last Kiss.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with Elderly Woman at this particular show, though, is that so when me and my dad got there, we got there maybe about, let's see, the show started about 8:20. We got there maybe about 5:30, 5 o'clock. People were already there. We were just hanging out. We went and got our shirts. We were looking at all the stuff.
Did you get a poster or no?
My dad talked me out of getting into a poster. I kind of regret it now, but yeah, he talked me out of getting a poster. Sorry for shouting you out like that, Dad. Yeah, I'll definitely probably get a poster at the next show I go to. But so we were kind of hanging out, right? And everybody started forming up lines, and all the people who got like general admission in the floor seats and all those stuff, they started lining up first. And we noticed, like, it was maybe about an hour and a half before the show started, we noticed a drone in the air. And we didn't know what it was. And because it's 2016, it's before everybody had drones now. Yeah. So we were like, whoa, what's that? That's cool. And we just didn't think anything of it. But during this version of Elderly Woman, the big monitors that they had up there, it was actually Pearl Jam's drone, and it showed the fans getting in line and just the fans waving and everything. So cool. when they got to the "I just wanna scream hello," like, it made it that much more engaging, because they were showing the fans, coming to the show, and it was a sweet moment. It's in my top 3 moments of the show for sure. Yeah, it's a special Elderly Woman for the people who were there.
That is really cool. That's such a them thing to do, but
for sure.
I feel like I now that I hear it, I'm like, I want it more often. Like, I want to see them do it, not every show, but every good show.
Right.
I feel like for good fans that really do deserve it, that would be such a cool little nod to them. The only thing that I can think of that's even close to that was the one time I saw the Beastie Boys 2004 Nassau Coliseum. They played a video before, and it was like, I don't know if it was interviewing fans outside the arena before, or it had something to do with that, but that was the intro to their show before they opened up with whatever. Honestly, I don't remember much about that show besides like it was old, 40-year-old white guys moshing in the pit, and I'm like, all right, this is cool. But that was a cool show. To say now that to say I've seen the Beastie Boys is I don't think about it a lot, but that is kind of cool. But anything else about Elderly Woman or?
No. I didn't. But when they said we'll play it for the people in the back, I didn't even think about Last Kiss. But I'm glad that they played Elderly Woman instead.
Yeah, that's the ultimate, because that happened at my first show, Last Kiss. And I'm like, all right, well at least I saw it. I can check it off now. Got it out of the way. But
that's nice.
This is a long second encore, by the way. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I had to make a lot of decisions here on what we wanted to hear and what we didn't want to hear. And there are a lot of tough decisions, and not playing the next one is going to be tough. And maybe we'll get it in. I don't know. But Ed says here, we've been blessed to know a bunch of vets over the years, and it's amazing to see how much them and their families have sacrificed. One of our nearest and dearest friends, Thomas Young, we mentioned him on the show last week. We got to know him in 2014. No, he said I cut off that sentence. He said we got to know him, and in 2014 he passed away. That was probably a sentence I should have finished. They made a film about him and a book that came out tomorrow at that point. It is one that I'm reading at this current moment. It is called Thomas Young's War. I recommend it to anybody that is interested in that sort of thing. And yes, there are Pearl Jam references in the book, because he is a massive, massive fan. There are pictures of him and Eddie in the book, so you get that tie-in. But he says it mentions things like that's not getting the proper health care, that it's all stuff that's touched up on in the book. And this is the other political thing. He's like, I'm holding people to task that the people that we elect, we have to take care of this stuff. And then I write in parentheses, narrated voice, and that never happened. Because it never happened. And what's interesting, Florida, he says Florida is 8.5% of the state are veterans, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it makes sense because not only is the South very, more military based than northern states are, but also you do have people that kind of flock down from northern states that live in Florida, and especially older vets, World War II vets, and now Korean War and Vietnam War vets are probably, if they lived in Ohio and, now they migrate down to Florida now. So it makes a lot of sense. It's top 3 veteran state in the country. It's just kind of crazy. So then he shouts out vets Mike and his son Mike Jr. and talks a little about Wounded Warriors and taking the funds from the shows and donating it to that organization. So that brings us into a cover of John Lennon's Imagine. When they first started doing this, because this was kind of in the middle, I feel like they first started doing it in 2014. And it didn't sound that good yet when they were doing it. It sounded like they were just experimenting, but this version really feels like it was the first that sounded really, really good. The earliest that I've heard that sounded really good, because I think they started off it being just Ed, but then when Matt comes in with the drums in the chorus, everything just sounds, it's kind of a goosebump kind of moment.
Yeah, this was a total surprise for me. I know that I had Imagine by Eddie by himself, and I know that they experimented with it before and placing it in the set, but it was just a total surprise for me. But it was totally welcoming. I really liked it. It was really cool to be there with I think maybe you can see this in the video. I don't remember, but everybody held their phone camera lights up, and we just kind of waved it, and that was cool.
Fireflies.
Yep. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was a total surprise, which is nice. So yeah, I really liked it.
The only thing I disliked about this was when mid-song they're into it, and he's like, Carrie, get my guitar down. Like,
oh yeah,
he's done that before. The most egregious one that I can think of that I've seen was when they did Off He Goes in Buffalo, 2013, and throughout the first verse he said it twice, carry guitar, and I'm just like, this is my first time seeing the song, and I'm like, no, stop. And it ruins it on the bootleg, but then again, it's kind of like, I laugh at it a little bit, because I'm like, it's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he can be sometimes.
Yeah. That takes us into Wasted Reprise, Life Wasted. Both together here, which we have done before, but it's not often. So I'm going to take the opportunity to, because this is one I think you wanted to highlight a little bit. I'm going to take the opportunity to do the transition from Reprise to Wasted, and this is one where the lefty specialist works. Last week, I think we did it into Porch, and I wasn't a fan, but of course it's going to work into Life Wasted. So let's hear how all that worked.
I faced it, a life wasted. I'm never going back again. Haven't tasted a life wasted. I'm never going back again. I scripted a life wasted. I'm never going back again.
Just gonna let you talk about this one. What'd you think?
I absolutely love when they do the transition of a Wasted Reprise into Life Wasted, and this was easily maybe my second favorite moment of the entire show. Is this? I love the transition like this, and Wasted Reprise can't really work. I know they've done it by itself, but it's just so much more powerful with Life Wasted attached onto it. It was a blast to see those two to see those two songs back to back. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is how it was meant to be. To be played live. At least the Reprise part to be played before Life Wasted. I like Reprise before Better Man as well, but that's it. That's all that I like. That's all that I think works on it. But seeing first show, I actually kind of thought that my first show, or at least the first time that I thought about how they would do shows without doing any research besides Live at the Garden. I thought that they would open a show going from Wasted Reprise into Life Wasted, because it was kind of System of a Down. When I saw System of a Down at one point, they opened with Welcome to the Soldier Side and went right into BYOB, which is how that went on the album, and that's why it's like perfect transition. But I saw the correlation between, kind of like that kind of slow, beginning, and then going into something just like that, just has that angst and that real, taps into that excitement and anger.
Yeah, it was great. The only little thing that I had was something about Life Wasted just seemed off. I don't know if it was like just the way it might have been the tuning, but it was a little lower than what it normally is. But
yeah,
by the time they're at the end of they're at the bridge and they go into the final chorus and Mike's going crazy, everybody's going absolutely crazy. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just at first it throws you off.
Yeah, this one, it's not totally tuned down, but I think it's in between where it gets real bad and where it sounds the best.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But Ed does seem like he's tapping into something like pretty. He's getting into like angry Ed mode here.
Yeah, he is. It was. It's really angry.
Yeah. So I liked it. And we got to move on because, man, there's just this encore 2 is just it goes heavy.
On. It goes on.
Heavy. You wouldn't think that they would do Life Wasted into Better Man, because like it just that the way that you see the encores, you get like one maybe two, like maybe a black or maybe something like that pretty early. Then you get one maybe before Alive and then a cover, and then the Bread and Butter, but there's way more than Bread and Butter in this, and it sort of undercuts. I didn't even say that the first encore I think was a total of 6 songs. Really, Lucan was really made it 5 almost, if you want to say that it. Yeah, Lucan 6, but like time-wise, it felt more like 5 probably. But this encore, I think, is 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken.
I think 9 might be. Do you count Wasted Reprise as well as a song? So maybe
it's kind of 8 or 9. There, yeah,
8 or 9. Yeah. The last thing about Eddie asked to see the special effect one more time, and that's what that was. Being at the show, that was super funny because everybody's just looking at the Tesla, whatever it's called,
right,
and nothing's going on, and Eddie's they're building. Matt's got the drum roll, and nothing happens, and he says something to the effect of like, well, maybe next time or not this time or something. That was funny.
Right,
and he goes straight into Better Man.
I wonder if that probably wasn't run by their lighting board. It was probably somebody. That whoever works at the arena that does that on a normal basis was probably doing it, not one of Pearl Jam's tech guys. So once they knew the spot to do it, they probably were like, okay, well, I can go home for the night, or go to wherever my post was before that, and they probably had no idea that he was even going to tee it up again.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm guessing. Man. Better Man here, you're stealing the show. This is I mince no words by saying this, but this encore 2 is like up and fighting, the great encore 2s, and by the great encore 2s I mean Madison Square Garden Night 2 2010 is probably, at least for me, my favorite encore 2 of all time. And this is fighting that in terms of power, in terms of song placement, in terms of how good this could be. This might be in Tampa, but they can do this in Madison Square Garden and not skip a beat.
Yeah, they could.
This is just, even if there's like a little lapse, and the chorus sounded really powerful. Ed kind of, he screwed up on some lyrics and, say what you want, but it didn't really bother me too much. It was just, it was fine. Because everything just sounded so energetic and so powerful. Going back to the way that Porch was played, the way that Do the Evolution and Blood and those songs were played, everything was just sort of played at this very powerful pace, and it just engaging, energetic, passionate, everything was there. Check off all those boxes.
It was great. All the lyric flubs, whether it's in Getaway or Moonlight or even the little one at the end of, I think, the first verse before the first chorus in Better Man, didn't even notice any of them during the show. I was just so enthralled by the show. They were so good at just playing and playing and playing really well, and it was just, I didn't even notice it at all. So.
Yeah, usually you don't. Usually it just kind of, it sneaks up on you on a boot, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. And, that's... maybe that's how you, for some people, decide whether or not a boot is better than another boot or what. But yeah, when you're there, it doesn't mean shit unless it's really egregious. It doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
The best part is this ending, though.
Yes, it is.
Fake drum ending. They just keep going on, and it's like end. No, end here. No, end here. No, end here. And then there's like, hold out another chord and sound like they're ending, but do another end. Oh man, it's hilarious. It's so good that they do it this way.
Oh, I love it. And when Eddie smashed his guitar at the end of the song, it got a big roar from everybody in the arena. But that was the biggest cheer I heard from my dad the entire night, was seeing Eddie smash his guitar, and it was so awesome.
Thank you for reminding me, because yes, that's right. I didn't write it down in my notes because I wasn't watching it, but I had said to you before, when did Ed smash the guitar? And because a lot of people that are listening that are on the boards were talking about this, and they were saying Ed was pissed off at something. Well, I don't know any answers for that, so
yeah.
I guess I believe you. That takes us into Sonic Reducer. Again, Ed is just showing his anger and edge and just people in the post were saying that he was pissed off at the crowd about something. I don't know if that's true, but
I can't confirm or deny if that was true or not.
So but this sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
I don't have a lot of notes on it just because it was fantastic. But again, this is a long 2 hour and 37 minute show. There's some 2 hours and long in a good way.
Yeah,
because it feels like the show doesn't end. You think from Better Man, okay, it's time to close it out. They're not going to do anything else, but no, they go right into Sonic Reducer, and then you're going to close out the final three, and you're kind of thinking it's going to be bread and butter, but it's not.
Right.
You have Alive here, and what I say about Alive here, and this is the first time I'm really kind of expressing this on the show, is that sometimes when you get it, it feels like it's just part of going through the motions of what the sets are supposed to entail. And it doesn't make Alive the ultimate goal of the show, which it should be. Your ultimate goal should be to get to Alive and have that be the most powerful song of the night. That is your ultimate goal. You need the build. You need to prep the crowd for it. You need to make them want it and get excited for it, because it is inevitable that you're going to get it. So that's how I feel about Alive here, that the build to it was just as good as getting it.
I can 100% back up everything you're saying for being there. This was the moment for me at my first show that it was building to, was Alive, and it works so perfectly. I'm getting teary-eyed right now just remembering listening to Alive and just filming the last chorus. Like that final chorus where he goes, we're all still alive. That's what this show was building to, at least for me. And I got it, and it works. And the tears were coming out so fast during that last little bit of Alive. It was just amazing. That's what I wanted. I got it. I can't complain.
You're rewarded for it. It's a reward. I don't want to say like we got through a set list, but it's a reward for all of the hard work that you did, singing along to every song, dancing, jumping, whatever it is that you did, losing your voice. It is the ultimate reward for all of that. I know that sometimes this is episode 38, and we've covered Alive 37. So, we're gonna be like, okay, well, let's kind of skip by it. But this one felt like the way they built to it and the way it was played, it felt like it deserved all of what it got. And because this means so much to you, I think I want to play that moment that you were saying right there about
the whole last chorus.
Yeah,
just the whole last chorus.
Why don't we do that? And if we all start getting teary eyed, we know whose fault it is.
Sorry.
It's a special moment here. I look, it's a little sloppy. I'm not going to say it was the most perfect song ever played, but it didn't need to be. It was because it had the power that every other hard-hitting song in this set had. So I was very, very happy to hear it. And then, you're just kind of chugging along here. At the end, you get Baba, and you're pretty much in the mode now. It's like, okay, I know how it's going to end, and you don't want to spend too much time on Baba, because how much do we hear Baba on this show? How much are you going to hear it when you go to another 20 shows in the next 10 years? The crowd is probably going nuts. It feels like the ending feels like it's got that super powerful arena vibe to it where they're ending. If you want to touch up on Baba real quick, but that's, again, I think there are more important matters to get to.
Oh, for sure. I love Baba. I love Eddie's scream after the breakdown. The lights were on at this point. Everybody was standing. Everybody was on their feet. Everybody was cheering, clapping. It's just a great follow up to Alive. Nothing much to say. It was a good performance. I'm just kind of ready to move on to the next and then what happens after.
That's where I am. Yeah. Again, heavy hitters in the show. Hit songs were so important to making this set so good. Better Man, Alive, Evolution, Jeremy, Porch.
Wasted Reprise into Life Wasted.
Right. Those all hit home so well that it made the show it makes it stand out. Even if, if this was Madison Square Garden, people would be calling it one of the best shows of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
People would be putting it up there because it's that kind of caliber. And then you get to the end, and Ed kind of says, here's Mike, and that's Matt, and that's Stone, and that's Jeff, and that's Boom. And then, Mike is kind of dicking around, and he gets you Ledbetter, and you're like, okay, that's how we're gonna end it. He gives you the first
4 notes, the first 4 notes of Ledbetter, and I thought I couldn't. After the Alive solo and screaming my lungs out to the last chorus and then screaming my lungs out again to Bubba O'Reilly, I thought there was no way I could get any higher than how I am right now. And then he plays the first 4 notes of Ledbetter, and I freak out. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I needed for this. This is perfect. I love this. And
it's not
a tease.
What you got.
No, it's a tease. It's a total tease. And they go from Bubba O'Reilly to the first 4 notes of Ledbetter to Little Wing. And I'm not complaining or anything, but Little Wing is not up there for me. And I know, for someone out there it will be, and that's fantastic. But it just didn't do it for me. You know what I mean?
No, because I love Little Wing.
Okay.
I think we need to play that whole section there to hear how Ledbetter kind of teased, and then you got Little Wing instead. I feel I'll get into that in a second. Let's hear it, and then we'll kind of get into it.
All right, enjoy your town. Enjoy the waves while we're gone. Get some for me. See ya. Good night. Yeah. So good. Well, she's walking through the clouds.
So I see where you're coming from, that you'd be really disappointed at not getting Ledbetter, because we covered a show a while back where they teased Ledbetter the same way. It was way more sloppy than how they did this. Ed was kind of like, whoa, hold on, and they went into Soldier of Love. And that was the determining factor of me not enjoying that show, because it deserved Ledbetter, and I thought that they had gypped the fans by not giving them that, and Soldier of Love was kind of meh. But man, this is Little Wing. This is the grandfather of Yellow Ledbetter. It's what it's basically based off of. So to get this instead, to get this little, I don't know if it was an audible, I don't know if it was a tease, but to get that instead, if I were there, I would have been flipping my lid, because it's just, you're not getting Little Wing like this. You're getting teases sometimes, but they've only played it 5 times on its own.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great way to end the show, and it gave me vibes of MSG 2010, because there were things that I had expected them to do during the second encore that they completely abandoned and did, and it was in my eyes that they were going to do All Along the Watchtower, which I didn't want to hear again, and instead they went and did Hunger Strike, which is kind of on that same level as Little Wing of rarity and special moment. So I kind of equate it to that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone who was at the show, or you who really enjoys Little Wing. The band killed it. They sounded great. It was a great performance.
You wanted Ledbetter, though. That's totally understandable for your first show.
Just wanted Ledbetter for my first show. I thought it would have been a great triple 3-song ender of Alive, Bubba O'Reilly, and Ledbetter. I thought it would have been perfect. I'm not complaining or anything. Just gives me one more reason to go see them again. So I'm not trying to take anything away. It's just I wanted Ledbetter.
I was in the camp of you could for a long time that you couldn't do a Pearl Jam show without ending with Ledbetter. And yeah, I had seen Indifference end shows, and I was fine with it, but I always thought that it's, in the same way that Corduroy, it's not a Pearl Jam show until you hear Corduroy. It's not a Pearl Jam show unless it ends with Ledbetter. I always kind of felt like that, and really when you're early in going to these shows, at your position that you are right now, I feel like it's such a powerful. You kind of need it for your first time. So I know where you're coming from, and I sense the disappointment, and I know that the veteran showgoer is probably at this moment being like, wow, this is incredible. But your first show, you probably should have gotten Ledbetter for your first show.
Yeah, but I'm not complaining or anything.
That is it. That is the end of your first show. So, why don't you rate it?
Sure. So we touched upon this actually early on. I think before we started, or very early on at the start of the show. I absolutely love the show, and my second sentence I wrote in this little concluding thing I have is, I think if someone asked me, what's the average Pearl Jam live experience? I could present them this show, and this is, the absolute most. You're going to get something like this every single night. You've got the hits, like Jeremy, Alive, Animal, Evolution, all that stuff. And then you get, the weirder stuff. The songs that they play, not as much, like Moonlight, which is a weird song, and then Hard to Imagine and Come Back, which they don't play all that often. And then you get covers that are super great, like Reducer and Bubba O'Reilly and Imagine and Little Wing. You're singing along. The band's on fire. This is the most standard Pearl Jam show possible, I think, in my opinion. For me, being there with it being my first show, seeing it with my dad, the stories that he told, the lightning bolt effect, the cow. I have to give this show just a personal 10. I mean, I know that's big, that's a lot, but it probably will change when I see other shows for sure. But as of right now, just with all the factors that are set right now, it's got to be a 10 for me. It's so special to me.
This is more than just a show in Tampa to me. And we've gotten kind of varying comments, and most of everything that we've heard has been very positive. But I didn't get this sense that before listening to this show that this show was gonna be on the level magnitude of Chicago shows, Philadelphia shows, Boston shows, New York shows, Seattle shows, London shows. And it's that we talk about it more. It blows me away that they even came close to that, because I thought this was kind of going to be more like the Hartford show that we did a couple weeks ago, where mid-level American City gets really good show for its city, and doesn't necessarily get all the same stuff that New York or Philly gets, but it gets a lot of good, memorable stuff. But this was, man, you could plug this. This was better than the Madison Square Garden Night 2 show. The Night 1 show set list was really good. The Night 2 of this same year, besides maybe Cheap Trick and Sting, I think this was a better set list. Night 1 set list was really good. It has a lot of songs that I loved. I just didn't. Being at that show, I was a pissy jerk and didn't accept it for what it was, because I didn't hear anything new. But looking back on that, I think that show was a really good set. But I think this this show could have been inserted into one of those nights and not skipped a beat.
Yeah.
So for that, that's as high a praise that I can possibly give something. You know, and it had its flaws. It had its flaws in spots. You know, some of the middle songs just kind of the down-tuned stuff didn't really work for me. But man, did the good stuff sound really, really good. And I went into the show before talking to you and had it like 8 territory with the chance to get it to 8.5. It is skipped 8.5 and I'm giving it 9.
Wow, that's great. I like to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just the realization you get, and it helps that you get a first time and you're always going to speak well of your first show, but it just sort of that rubs off on you, and then you see the big stuff that they did. The big stuff felt big, and I've in the last little while I've started to get the realization that those are the reasons why this band is so good and why this band is such a treat to keep going to see over and over and over again. So, but that's all we got. That's I'm going to say goodbye to you right now, and thank you for doing this, for coming onto the show. Eddie is a Patreon donor, and for people that donate to our Patreon account, they get to do exactly what Eddie did today. Come on and talk about either their first show, their 9th show, their 50th show, whatever show, maybe a show that I haven't even gone to, that they heard on the radio back in 1994, like anything. That's what you get for joining onto our Patreon, and Eddie did it today, and I thank you for doing this, for coming on, sharing your stories, getting a little emotional when you had to get emotional, and we had a good time. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, man, I love this. I love talking Pearl Jam. It's my favorite band. I have no problem shedding a few tears over Pearl Jam. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come up on here. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you guys are doing. It's great. Love the content. Thank you again. Can't say thank you enough. Just thanks.
You got it, man. We'll see. We'll do this again real soon.
Oh yeah, let's.
Before we get to some good stories here, I just wanted to mention that, Eddie's on tour this weekend, starting on Sunday in Amsterdam. For any of you that are going to these shows, the Amsterdam shows, or any of these shows on the European tour, including where he's opening up for The Who later in the month, or July, whenever that is, please feel free to write into us. Let us know what your show experience was like. We're all encompassing here. We don't want to just know about Pearl Jam. We want to know about Eddie too. Eddie doesn't change as much as the band does, but he will throw in a couple of little curveballs in there, and it's always a pretty good time to hear him live no matter what. So if you are attending any of those shows in the next couple of weeks, drop us a line and let us know what you think. Drop us a video, share it with our social media accounts, and we would be happy to take in all of that good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, this right here is, this might be one of the best stories we tell on our show, and you'll see in a minute. We mentioned it before when we were talking about Hard to Imagine, that it was dedicated to Bill, who had survived brain cancer, and we were lucky enough to hear from his wife. And she reached out to us, and after she reached out to us, we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and we were able to hear from Bill. And Bill sent us a really, really incredibly just gracious email with his story, and it's inspiring. The term loss for words isn't that you have a loss for what words to say. It's that you can say so many words, but you're so afraid to make them perfect that you sort of lose them. And that's how I feel when talking about this situation, because you'll see, when I tell this, that it's you'll think, maybe this is a sad story that I'm about to tell right now, but it's absolutely not. It's a story of positivity. It's a story of inspiration, and I'm hoping anybody out there that could be listening, that is going through something tragic, hard to deal with. I mean, brain cancer is probably the worst of the worst, but everybody has their own things that they're working with. Hopefully this can inspire some hope. So this is Bill's story. So onto my Tampa story. It began in the fall of 2011. My fiance, now my wife Carolyn, we were about to travel from our home in Cleveland to go see 2 Pearl Jam shows in Toronto. Instead, I ended up in the hospital with what looked to be a seizure, but instead it was a glioblastoma, brain cancer, and I had a 50-50 shot at being alive in a year. Fortunately, the surgeon got the tumor out, but my mind had been scrambled since then. My speech and word finding are still terrible to this day. At the time, PJ-20, the movie, came out, and my brother bought me the soundtrack. My head and my brain were so scattered that when I listened to the first song, which was Release, the music and the words were all jumbled, and I couldn't recognize anything. Carolyn and I were able to keep our original wedding date in 2012. Because of the chemo and the radiation, we were a long shot to have children, but we did. Olivia was born in December of 2015. The only thing that would keep me away from her was the Lightning Bolt tour. Just everything so far is just, if you can't smile right now, I don't know what to tell you. So, I'll continue on here. We got tickets to the Tampa show in April, where my father lived at the time. But before the tour, I put a post on the Facebook page of the band. It was Olivia with a PJ onesie saying, "Thank you, Pearl Jam. Because of your music, my daddy beat brain cancer, and he had me. Can you play Hard to Imagine in Tampa for us? Thank you." Well, somehow Eddie saw it. We went to the show. We were in the middle of the pit, 10 people away from the stage, when all of a sudden I heard the first lick of the song, and I couldn't believe it. Then Eddie starts talking, and I thought, wow, someone else must have requested this song. And then he mentioned brain cancer, and I thought, wow, somebody who had brain cancer requested the song. And then thought, whoa, wait a minute. Is this happening? Carolyn was sobbing, and I tried to yell thank you and wave to Eddie, but I couldn't get his attention. But man, when I got the bootleg and saw the videos on YouTube, it still gives me chills. When you listen to the boot, you can tell Ed was not very happy with the crowd all night, and it was pretty tame. But man, it was the best concert moment I've ever had, and how can it not be? How can it absolutely not be? The band, look, there are people out there that feel like they're entitled to things, and I say that because everybody sees it. There's entitlement to a new album, there's entitlement to a tour, there's entitlement to hear certain songs on the tour, but no one is entitled to anything. And the band sees all that, and the band kind of can laugh off requests for things like Dirty Frank and the Play Leash You Pussies thing, but the band is always paying attention. The band is always paying attention to the fans that need it the most, and Bill is one of those that absolutely deserved a moment like this, and I feel like the band has this responsibility whenever they see that a fan is in need, that that it is a genuine moment, that they feel like they need to step up for somebody that helped them. They helped through such a hard time. It feels like it's probably the least that they can do. So it's just a remarkable story, and has a fun little ending here, that he actually got to thank Eddie in person for at the 2016 World Series, Bill being an Indians fan and Ed obviously being a Cubs fan, he said he got to shake his hand very quickly, but yeah, that's what a wonderful story. Bill, we absolutely we thank you for sharing that with us, and really, we thank you for just the story is inspiring. It can inspire so much hope and so much power and passion that I hope that somebody listening right now, it could be just one person. If it's one person that it can change their mindset, then it worked. It did its job. So thank you so much for doing this. Everything that I said about Hard to Imagine earlier doesn't mean jack. Placement, didn't feel like it meant as much in the middle of the set, that it wasn't a rarity. Whatever, take that. That's all crap talk radio right there. It doesn't mean anything. This right here, this is what it means. So once again, Bill, thank you. So it's going to be really tough to top that story, but we have one more that I'd like to share with you guys before we get into other important matters. So this is from Smallest Oceans is the person's name on the porch board. He says, the show remains pretty clear in my memory from all the 2016 shows I saw. After partying pretty hard in Miami at the previous show, I needed some time to recover, so I was just chilling in Clearwater Beach for a couple of days. Everyone had high expectations for the show, and so did I. I wanted to make sure I took the show in with a clear head. I ended up arriving later at the pre-party, had a beer, and met up with an awesome couple from Texas who, of course, you meet up with couples from shows and you forget their names. Of course you do. That made my day. Looking back, yeah, it turned out to be a hot show and a hot location. Had a nice reserved seat, not too far back on the floor. Didn't have to worry about GA or any of that bullshit. It was nice to arrive right at showtime for a change. In my opinion, it was the best Florida show of 2016, with Jacksonville being not too far behind. The first set was one of my favorite sets that I've seen the band play. The energy was just there. They came out swinging and never let up. Played maybe one slow song, great flow, great escalation, great balance, jabs, hooks, uppercuts. That ending fittingly with blood. Nice early run with Love Boat Captain. It was my first time seeing it live with the extended intro. Low Light, always welcome. Red Mosquito, always a treat. Hard to Imagine. Hard to Imagine was played in the 9 spot. First time seeing that gem. But that's why it's generally better to see more shows on years that they're not promoting an album, because the set lists are much more unpredictable. Songs like Hard to Imagine, Long Road, Release were not being played mid-set in 2013. You weren't getting deep cuts in the Moonlight and Education mid-set. You weren't getting full album shows in 2013, and In the Moonlight is killer indeed, emoji face. With that being said, all the Lightning Bolt material still feels fresh, and it was kicking ass that night. Getaway, Father Son, Pendulum opened the first encore, which I'm not sure had happened before. Pendulum is aging really well, probably my favorite song they've released in a long time. So Off He Goes for the first time, Come Back. Only 5 songs from 10 were played, so the 10 overkill factor was not as present as it sometimes is later in the show. All 5 songs were evenly spaced out, adding to the balance. No black for a change, and the show never got too emotional. It was just a fun show that never got too serious. And let's not forget Little Wing capping things off with McCready's Flying V. That was unforgettable, and they need to cover more Jimmy. I want to see McCready shred this one. It'd be right in his wheelhouse. And he shared something. I don't know what it is because it's just a picture of Jimi Hendrix. So thank you, Smallest Oceans. Jesus, is that you?
No, it's just me. It's Matt. I made it.
From where?
The vet.
Well, I'm glad they finally got you spayed there.
I was in need. It was time.
You were pumping out way too many puppies.
Yeah.
You need to control the population, sir.
Yeah.
That's why you have to get all these gigs in, because you have like about too many puppies to pay for.
Just to let everyone know, I don't have any stray puppies running around, canine or human. And by the magic of editing, it's going to make it sound like I am here on the same day, but it is actually the next day, and we thought we'd fit this in real quick.
Yeah, and that's why, if you can hear my voice right now, it's definitely it is morning Randy without his coffee he doesn't drink because he doesn't wake up at 8 a.m. So
I'm normally up, and I did have my coffee. The only problem is if I sound weird, it's my allergies have been really bad. And I forgot to tell you too, last night I burnt the roof of my mouth. I mean, everyone's burnt the roof of their mouth before, but this is like beyond burn.
What'd you burn it on?
Pizza.
Of course you did. I was going to say pizza.
Yeah, I had pizza after I did the whole thing with the pup, and oh my god, like it's unbelievable how badly I burnt the roof of my mouth.
I feel like if there was like a top 10 list or a top 5 list for top 5 things that would destroy the top of your mouth, it would be pizza would be number 1, and then number 2 would be question mark, and then number 3 would be like soup.
Soup, yeah, maybe
like a clam chowder or something like that.
It's like a thick hot soup that could really stick to it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking also coffee, yeah, but more specifically Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I don't know, how do they keep it so hot? It is.
Yeah, you're right. And usually, I mean, like, I feel like 7-Eleven coffee, and most of you listening probably don't even have 7-Elevens. I feel like that coffee goes cold rather quickly.
Oh, yeah.
But Dunkin' Donuts coffee, man, you can be like 10 minutes later and still burning yourself. It's awful.
Yep. It's awesome.
Yes, it's awesome to burn the top of your mouth.
I mean,
Why not?
it's awesome that you don't have to rush through it because Dunkin' Donuts coffee will stay hot.
Yes.
It's probably the wonderful for the environment, super thick styrofoam cups they use. So
yeah. Don't know how we're recycling those, but so you researched the show like the rest of us. You want to take a minute to tell us what you think?
I would, yeah. So I listened to it twice, and I really enjoyed it. We're used to seeing marathon shows, especially something with 2 large encores. I mean, you could even call Encore 1 and Encore 2 just a whole second set. It's pretty wild. We're used to seeing stuff like this be a bit of a marathon, but they start off full sprint on this show. I couldn't believe it. These song choices in set 1. It's so I don't know. They feel like a different band. They're just, they start off running and they don't really stop ever. I'm gonna make it quick because I just had a couple general feelings about the whole thing. Why Go? I really liked as the opener because the energy was really good. I thought Mind Your Manners was a little. Mind Your Manners felt weird. It felt like it was maybe the first or second time they played it on a support tour, but it wasn't. It's like 3 years later. Which led me into my first kind of general criticism was this was not a very good Jeff show. I
thought otherwise. I thought this was a great Jeff show.
Oh, I thought Jeff was kind of a mess. I made sure to listen to this on my headphones, to have the bass really in my ear, and his energy was fantastic. But you know what I say sometimes, if you're falling off the fretboard or if you're hitting wrong notes, anything like that, maybe dial it back and focus on the performance just a little bit more. You could still have fun, but I need to make sure that you're playing your parts correctly. But so that was the one thing, and that was just kind of throughout the whole show. I loved his energy. I just thought he was really sloppy. Yeah, I mean, continuing on, it was just, like I said, a sprint. Got some Animal super early, Animal and Why Go early. Like I said, I usually don't like that, or I don't like it when they switch them up. And this was just kicking ass. Love Boat Captain, long intro. I wasn't sure how I was going to like this because I like Love Boat Captain super early, and I thought this might have been a strange spot for it after Corduroy and how it would work with Corduroy. But this extended intro was cool. It was kind of like a jam session that really led into the song naturally. That's what made the placement fit really well, I thought. I don't know how you guys felt about it because, like I said, this is the next day. I haven't actually listened to your episode yet, but that was my takeaway on that extended intro. I don't know how'd you guys feel about it.
I loved it. I mean, I've always loved it. There was one this past year that was done somewhere in Europe, and I was listening to on the live stream when they were doing it live, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Where are they going with this? I'm really into it, but I'm on the edge of my seat to see where they go with this. And then when they do that doom 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 doom, I lost my shit.
Yeah. I think that's just a really good, effective way to be able to place it basically anywhere you want in a set, and it'll work out.
Yeah, my only thing was that I thought it was a little redundant that in Corduroy, the fifth song, Ed says "Good evening" to everybody, and then right after he does the "Let the show begin" part, I thought I was just like, oh, like it's a little too late for that. And I think I made too much of a deal out of it, but it was weird.
Yeah, he could have just sang it straight, I guess. I do completely agree with that, but I think that's nitpicking on both of our sides.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Again, same with Low Light coming right after it. I not crazy about it here, but the Low Light, Red Mosquito, Hard to Imagine trio there was fucking incredible. You know, I absolutely loved that. I thought they all worked really well together. It got a little strange here. I liked Even Flow. I thought Even Flow was pretty good. A little sloppy here and there. I think you had mentioned that too, or was it Alive? I thought they were both not sloppy, but full of energy. Good sloppy. I think they were good sloppy.
The one thing about Even Flow that we did mention was that Ed was just kind of, he was having fun, and he was kind of going off as sarcastic, I can't help when I'm happy. I look insane, or whatever he did at that point, and it was just kind of, it was like they had played it before, but they were also having fun with it in that fashion. So,
right,
yeah, it wasn't...
Exactly, and that's actually my other kind of criticism was I don't want to say this wasn't a good Eddie show because I thought Eddie was great in spots, but there were a couple times where he was just an absolute disaster, and I get you're having fun, but like do the evolution. How many times does he just like fuck up like the entire thing? And it's like, but why? Like, I understand if you're a guitar player, you're jumping around, you miss some chords, kind of like what was happening with Jeff today, but I mean, if Eddie's jumping around, do the lyrics fall out of your head? I don't understand. So that happened a bunch of times here. So my general criticism for the show was that I didn't think it was a good Eddie show, and I didn't think it was a good Jeff show. But for the other half of the time, it's their passion that's carrying them through. So it's passable, but a couple things were a little too sloppy for my liking, but it's not a huge deal. That was the only real thing that I came up with. So this section was okay. Unfortunately, these are not really my favorite songs here. I thought Daughter was wonderful, but I'm not really a huge My Father's Son fan. I'm not really a huge Getaway fan. I liked his talking points here, though, because he actually sort of made sense, and he also gave Matt Cameron the spotlight in this moment, which, you got to.
That was a great story. That was one of the better stories we've heard.
It really was. It really was, and you got to give Cameron the spotlight, and he deserves it. I think. Yeah, those Getaway in the Moonlight. They're not really some of my favorite songs, unfortunately. So this area was a tad boring for me, but I thought everything was played well. Jeremy played well. Do the Evolution I thought was pretty bad, but the band sounded kick-ass. Blood was kick-ass. Encore 1, awesome. Wasn't sure how I was going to like Pendulum. Starting off there, it sounds like an opener song. It was coming off a little strange at first, but I can't complain when the song is in the set because I love it. And then everything after that was great. Lucan, Eddie might as well have just maybe not sang on it at all. Just let the bands go with it. This riffy porch was the riff master, and
And a little bit softer now. A little bit softer now. Yeah, I think that part gets me worse than the riff.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're the fucking Isley brothers going into shout here. We had talked how it was really cool that they did Elderly Woman instead of Last Kiss here. They kind of surprised us, and I'm sure that was just absolutely unforgettable for the people in the crowd, because it's nice to be noticed when you're sitting behind the stage, and then it's like, oh, so you show your love for us by singing us Last Kiss. And I said to you, when he says, we're gonna play one for the people in the back, you hear just everything just die, and it's like, oh, you just lost them. You lost them all. Then they do the count off, and it was fantastic. I loved it. Imagine, great. We finally get Wasted into Wasted here. The latter half, Life Wasted, was just okay. A lot of these songs were played like, I'd like to say passionately, but a lot of them were played like maybe they hadn't played them in a while, or that they were brand new. Like I said, there's sloppy good and there's sloppy not so good. Some of these were not so great, but it was fun. Better Man, you had mentioned to me before we started recording, little sloppy, and I agree. Vocally a little sloppy, but fuck, if it wasn't passionate, it was absolutely full of passion. So Sonic Reducer's fine. It's fine when it pops up. Not my favorite. Alive was great. Bob O'Reilly was great. Little Wing was great. I mean, yeah, and Eddie's really connecting with the crowd in a way that we sometimes don't hear. Sometimes we hear it where it's just the incoherent ramblings of a crazy old man, and sometimes it's like this where it feels like you're having like a conversation with him. I thought he totally hit the mark with it on this night. He was really engaging. The band was super powerful and strong. It was both sloppy good and sloppy not so good. I thought the set list was absolutely kick-ass. There were a couple songs that I don't care for, but the flow was amazing. So I could even look past the songs that I don't like because they all fit really well together. Yeah, I got to give this one an 8. I was going to go 7.5 because it was Tampa. You don't expect Tampa to come out like this, but this was a great fucking show. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I made the point at the end there that I think if you insert this set list and this passion in a place like Madison Square Garden or Philadelphia or Boston, Chicago, it's going down as one of the all-time greats. Anyway, I was thinking, so should we ditch who you are today and just go into doing our contest for the end here, or what?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Since, I mean, who you are is basically, it's redundant. It's going to tell you exactly the same thing.
It's going to tell you exactly who you are.
And people already told us who they are and what they wanted from us. And
I guess
I was very happy.
Maybe the song finally implanted itself into the people's heads.
I suppose so.
Nice and low in the background, and now we know who they are because they participated.
Well, it's also my vigorous social media.
True.
So why don't I run through the nominees one more time, and then we will get to picking one. So here we are, and the nominees are Lexington 2016, Leeds 2014, Vienna 2014, Copenhagen 2012, Toledo 2004, New Orleans Jazz Fest 2016, Denver 2014, Boston 2010, San Diego 2000, Greenville 2016, DC 2008, St. Louis 2000, Boston Night 2 2004, Alpine Valley The Ice Bowl 2000, not Las Vegas The Vault Show 1993, Tampa 2008. I was trying to do my best movie phone impression.
Ooh, movie phone.
Remember movie phone. Okay, let's we got all these in a hat. We're gonna randomly pick here.
Randy is literally picking out of a hat.
Literally, you can hear it.
The excitement.
All right. I got my one.
Drum roll, please.
Open it up right now. And the winner is... Ho ho! Okay, this is a good one. The winner of the contest is St. Louis 2000.
Ooh, a 2000 show. Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, that was requested by Jeff Keller or Kohler, and he is. I'm glad because he's somebody that has definitely participated in conversation with us in the past. So, and that's an open invitation to Jeff to come on the show and talk to us and talk about his experience there. Obviously, there's a lot of really popular stuff in this. Like the sign language version of Given to Fly, which was made popular on the Touring Band DVD. So there's lots of, in binaural, it's we kind of go back to basics a little bit. We get like half of the albums cut off, and I think this was a fantastic choice. I think a lot of these, looking back, I would have been fine covering mostly all these. And now that we have them on list, we can get to them in any time that we want, which is going to be good for everybody.
Yeah, maybe. If you like them all, maybe we could, in a couple weeks, pick another one out of a hat or something.
Yeah, I mean, we got the summer series that we're doing, and then September is pretty much wide open. You might have to do a couple shows by yourself, because of reasons. But then I'm gonna try to keep things open. Besides, keeping in the MSG stuff. I'm pretty much open to anything. And obviously, you guys out there, if you are listening and you're sad that you didn't get to participate, participation is never ending. This is a never ending experience for us. It's a never ending experience for you. So write to us at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think, and if you want to be guaranteed a show, Patreon is the way to go. And trust me, you get a lot more back for Patreon than you give. So we'll send you a bootleg of any show that we've covered. Depending on how much you're willing to spare, we can send you a shirt. And it goes into a lot of good stuff too that we're having planned for the future. So, anything else? I guess Matt, I'm glad we got you on at the end here, because we're 2 weeks without you. That's sad times for all.
You know what? It's funny. Yeah, I love talking about these shows because playing myself and listening to it over and over again and critiquing, and it's fun. But I also don't mind sometimes having a fresh listen to the episode at the same time. I go into,
you can be a fan as well.
I go into edit it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always have great guests, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, we got Buckley coming on next week. So
Jesus!
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna say entertaining shit show because just busting his balls. But it's gonna be fun. I know you got a busy week next week, so we decided that we're going to ease up a little bit and give you a shorter set list to edit with. Zurich, Switzerland. 1992 will be the earliest thing that we've covered so far. This was a pretty popular bootleg. It's got something that, they've barely ever done live since. that is very important, and we will touch upon that. It's also an anniversary, so I figured this was a good time for it, because Buckley and I went back and forth on what should we do, and I kind of took a hard stance, and he was really like, we got to do Indio to 1993, and I told him, like, look, we'll do Indio when it's the anniversary of Indio in November, so Buckley will be back on again for that, and then Buckley will show up a couple times in the next couple months, because he's going to be on that MSG Night 2 2010 show too, which is like that should be the pinnacle of what everybody's waiting for at this point, because especially the MSG shows. So
Yeah.
all right, I think we close this out now by saying the end be here. Well, here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already. I miss you always. We thank you to, again, goes out to Eddie Quintana, to Bill, who shared his phenomenal story with us, and to Matt for actually showing up for work today. A day late, but it's okay. And although we won't see you next week, we will miss you very, very badly, and we will see you the next time we'll see you is for the St. Louis show that just won.
Yeah.
So everybody say bye to Matt. Bye, Matt.
Bye, guys. And my little pupperino thanks you all for understanding that I needed to take him to the vet.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's good.
So bye.
Bye.